What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 5SS 101 Accidents in the Kitchen, Anzhe, the Home Cook. The third update, please subscribe. Like Anzhe and Longju, they both like green peppers very much, and they have green peppers as a side dish in almost every meal. But for Sister Luowan and Jiro Kyoka, both of them showed the same frightened expression as when they looked at the preserved eggs, looking at the green peppers. Anzhe said confidently, "Don't worry, it's definitely not the green pepper method you imagined, I guarantee you will be satisfied." Japanese generally don't like to eat green peppers, and the protagonists of some animation works also have a common setting that they hate green peppers. To a certain extent, it reflects the author's own preferences. The reason is that Japanese elementary school students' lunch is provided uniformly by the school, and the menu will be determined according to the development of the students. The green peppers in the recipe are not stir-fried with eggs or meat, but boiled with a small amount of oil. The green peppers already have a smell, and they can only be fragrant after being stir-fried over high heat. So the taste of boiled water. Whoever tries it will know, it is absolutely authentic dark cuisine. Anzhe smiled and said, "Sister Luowan, please cut the green pepper in half, wash all the small seeds inside, peel off the butt end, and then cut it into strips." Okay. Undulating Spiral took a deep breath, although she had a terrible impression of boiled green peppers, but since Anzhe promised so, she didn't mind trying it. "Kyoka, please peel the tomatoes and beat the eggs in the bowl." Anzhe said again. "HMPH, leave it to me." Jiro Kyoka snorted and went to the corner to do something. Longju was washing rice. Fortunately, the rice cooker was big enough, otherwise there would be not enough food for so many people. And most of the remaining ingredients are handed over to Anzhe to handle. Fish is one of the essential ingredients on the table. In order to save time, let's slice tuna for sashimi. There are also shrimps. Anzhe plans to make tempura fried shrimps. Tempura is a very common dish in Japanese cuisine. Time is quiet, passing quietly. The ingredients are basically ready, waiting to be cooked. On the other side, Undulating Convoluted was originally squatting next to the trash can to clean up chili seeds, and was ready to stand up after cleaning everything up. At the same time, because my eyes were sour after staring at them for a long time, I subconsciously raised my hand and wiped it gently with my fingers. Result. After cleaning the chili seeds, a hot feeling came from the hand, which made the undulating eyes close in pain, and the feet were a little weak after standing up after squatting for a long time. This panic caused her to stumble, and her unsteady body lost her balance and fell backwards. Careful. Anzhe's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick. Seeing that the wave was about to fall, an arm suddenly stretched out from the side, wrapping her in his arms. Stare. The air was suddenly quiet. His exclamation also made the rest of the melon-eating girls look over in unison, while Longju looked at Undulating Convoluted and Anzhe with meaningful and childish eyes. The undulating spiral has just arrived in someone's arms, and with that familiar masculine breath, her pretty face flushes red at a speed visible to the naked eye. Aunt Longju, bring some tissues and help Sister Luowan wash her eyes. Under the subtle gazes of the crowd, Anzhe's expression remained unchanged. He stood firmly on the undulating spiral, then took a step back and explained, "Falling is very dangerous." Undulating spiral bit her lip, her posture was coy, and the numb feeling from her waist made her feel particularly ashamed and angry at this moment. Speaking of it, this kind of unexpected situation of helping people seems to be very bad, whether it is going up or down. The undulating spiral knows that her waist is very sensitive, which is a kind of weakness. What happened just now? In the living room, Mt. Lady asked without thinking too much. Jiro Kyoka also turned around and looked over. She didn't see what was going on. She gritted her teeth. "Anzhe. I always feel that there are so many accidents when I'm with Sister Luowan." Anzhe complained silently in his heart, and was about to explain. Anyway, he didn't mean to take advantage of others. At this time, serious voice sounded, attracting everyone's attention. "I just saw that the undulating spiral was about to fall accidentally, and the director just stood beside him to support him. So that's how it is." Mount. Lady also felt that there was nothing gossip to watch after hearing this, so she turned her head and looked at the TV again. Jiro Kyoka wasn't angry either, although he was a bit apprehensive, but it was hard to say anything about the unexpected situation. Anzhe silently praised Sirius, and thought for a while. If he was the one who explained it just now, he might not be believed or questioned. And Sirius, who was completely melon-eating, successfully eliminated a crisis in a few words. Waiting for the year-end bonus, Anzhe has already made a decision to give Sirius a big red envelope. 0. Seeking flowers. As a result, the atmosphere returned to calm again. Those who eat melons, and those who work in the kitchen do things. As for the slightly acidic undulating helix that cleaned his eyes, he was also very embarrassed, but he quietly let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I was only hugged just now, otherwise if something happened like the accident in the toilet that day, I would be so ashamed and angry that I couldn't stand it for a second. At the same time, Undulating Spiral also felt that he was hugged by Anzhe, and he didn't feel unacceptable. Instead, I feel that Anzhe's arms are warm and reliable, completely different from when the two met for the first time. Anzhe needs to take care of himself like a younger brother. "Sister Luowan, why don't you go to the living room to rest and leave the rest to us?" Anzhe's voice interrupted Undulating Hirowan's wild thoughts. She was indeed a little confused now, and walked out of the kitchen without refusing. All of this was seen by Longju. he nodded in satisfaction, and then looked at Anzhe. Is it me or is it? Anzhe shook his head and said, do it together. There happened to be 2 stoves in the kitchen. Longju was in charge of some deep-fried dishes, while Anzhe was here to stir-fry. Anzhe turned on the fire and put the cooking oil in the pot, and when the oil temperature was half mature, put in green peppers. His fire dragon slaying magic is also very useful in life, and his grasp of fire and temperature is extremely precise. Then, put the thin strips in, stir-fry, and add various condiments. Soon, a wonderful chemical reaction took place, and an alluring aroma permeated the air. It smells good. All of a sudden, the girl in the kitchen and the melon-eating girl in the living room looked over curiously. Seeing Anzhe wearing an apron and holding a shovel in one hand, Mt. Lady complained. The director is so skillful, it seems that he really knows how to cook. Hatsume Mei praised. Xiao Jie looks like a chef. Sirius said with a smile. Do you think the director looks like a house husband? House cook. It seems to be true. The room is clean, the cooking looks very skillful, and the female power is full. So, without Anzhe's knowledge, he got the title of house husband. 102 Anzhe of the head of the family, the party is over. 4th update, please subscribe. During the cooking session, Anzhe and Longju each occupied a stove, and Jiro Kyoka, who had nothing to do, left the kitchen. However, she looked at the girls sitting on the sofa in the living room, chatting happily with each other, and felt a little discordant in her heart. The big sister Longju doesn't need to say much, but there are so many girls in the room, but Anzhe, the boy, is doing the cooking in the kitchen. It's too inconsistent. Speaking of which, these days it seems that boys generally have high femininity, and they are much better than most girls. Go wash your hands and get ready to eat. Anzhe poked his head out of the kitchen and continued to the people in the living room. Kyoka, come and serve the dishes. Hatsume Mei, come and put the chopsticks. Passed. Quote. Understood. Jiro Kyoka and Hatsume Mei got up and went to the kitchen. Naturally, the others would not sit still. After all, it was a dinner party among peers, not a visit to an elder's house. All of a sudden, they got up to help, either to help with the meal, or to arrange the tables and chairs. September 47 inches was served one by one, and everyone began to take their seats amid Anzhe's greeting. Jiro Kyoka sat beside Anzhe without hesitation, and the undulating scorpion was also pushed by Longju and came to Anzhe's side. Anzhe also shook his head helplessly. In fact, no matter how the table is arranged, he is the only boy in the room, and it feels like hugging left and right. I'm gonna start now. After the pre-dinner declaration was finished, everyone was not too restrained, and started to move their chopsticks one after another. At a glance, tomato scrambled eggs, sour potato shreds, green pepper fried meat, tuna sashimi, fried shrimp tempura, boiled vegetables, can be described as very rich. Stare. Undulating spiral stared at the fried pork with green peppers on the dinner plate like an enemy. The yellowed green pepper skin gave her a sense of fear, especially when her eyes were scorched just now. The same is true for other people. They are skeptical about this dish and lack confidence. No one dares to move their chopsticks first. Anzhe, is this green pepper really edible? Jiro Kyoka also asked worriedly. Like many people, she hated the boiled green peppers at school when she was a child. Anzhe was about to speak, when a mature and affirmative voice sounded. It's delicious, this is our Chinese cooking method. Everyone turned around and looked around, only to find that they had already started eating with green pepper meat. It is no exaggeration to say that Chinese chefs are very popular in any country in the world. Of course, this cannot be completely determined. There are also foreigners who hate Chinese cuisine and feel that there is too much oil and salt in it. However, some food programs in Japan are very fanatical about Chinese cuisine. In terms of taste, there should not be such a big cultural difference. Now that Longju took the lead, Beluo also swallowed nervously, picked up the chopsticks hesitantly, picked up some green pepper shredded pork, put it in the bowl and bit it lightly. The beautiful eyes suddenly opened wide. Green peppers are actually so delicious. Why haven't I found out before? Seeing this, Jiro Kyoka also picked up his chopsticks, and after eating, his eyes lit up obviously. Anzhe said confidently. I've said it all, I'm very talented in cooking. After such a small episode, the table immediately became much more lively, much better than the atmosphere at the beginning. And Hatsume Mei picked up a deep-fried shrimp tempura. No matter whether it will burn your mouth after frying, just bite it down. As a result, the skin was so hot that Hatsume opened his mouth, and the fried shrimp accidentally fell under the table. Hatsume Mei, here are the tissues. Sirius next to Hatsume Mei, handed over a tissue. Thank you. Hatsume Mei blushed slightly, thanked in a low voice, looked down at the fried shrimp tempura under the table, and said to Anzhe, Xiao Jie's fried shrimp has gone to your place. New. Anzhe responded, picked up a tissue, bent down to pick up the fried shrimp tempura. In case someone stepped on it accidentally, it would be very troublesome to return. Just when he picked up the fried shrimp, Anzhe was surprised to find that from the current angle, the scenery under the table is very good. The table is a very ordinary square table. 7 people are gathered around the table, luckily it is not too crowded. Today is a weekend, several girls are wearing skirts, only Mt. Lady and Sirius are still wearing combat uniforms. In short, when Anzhe lowered his head and glanced under the table inadvertently, he paused slightly. Looking around, there is a piece of beautiful white legs. Undulating spirals are wearing small black leather shoes and black pantyhose, and the stockings have a slight dent above the knees. And her sitting posture is different from others. It is a big guy sitting with her left leg folded on top of her right leg. This posture makes the arc from knee to ankle look extra slender, looks plump and sensual. Hatsume Mei is an ordinary sneaker, probably because she was a little guilty and dropped the food on the ground just now, and now her legs are close together, sitting in a cute posture like a primary school student. The legs are also extraordinarily slender, and it should be due to long-term physical work. I always feel that I can easily hold them with one hand. Then there was Jiro Kyoka, wearing no stockings and a pair of delicate leather shoes. From Anzhe's point of view, she looks like a fairy, a woman who doesn't eat fireworks in the world. She is very beautiful. See no evil. Anzhe didn't dare to look at other people's legs anymore. He was still very guilty. After saying something silently, he covered the fried shrimp with a paper towel and stood up. Anzhe got up and glanced at the girls. They were eating and didn't notice him, so he was slightly relieved. Time flies. The party and lunch ended quickly with satisfaction. Anzhe's and Longju's Chinese dishes were well received by the rest of the group. Thanks for treatment. Seeing that everyone put down the dishes after eating, Anzhe naturally prepared to clean up the dishes, and others also got up to help. Okay, you are all guests and sit down. Anzhe stopped the girls and walked into the kitchen with the dishes. The others who were left looked at each other in blank dismay, and they all felt the same sense of disobedience as Jiro Kyoka, or it could be said that women's strength was hit by their self-confidence. PS2. The fourth update, please subscribe. Now, looking at the empty room, Anzhe lay down on the sofa in relief. It feels like Anzhe is the head of the family. See if I won't let you bleed today. Anzhe gritted her teeth and thought angrily, there wouldn't be so many people in today's party, all because of her embellishment. Just like that, after lunch, Anzhe made a few more cups of after-dinner tea. Mount. Lady said carelessly, this time she was not conscious, because the eyes of other women were all looking at her. Exhausted. I was just joking. Mount. Lady twitched the corners of her mouth, feeling that it was scary that she said something wrong and caused public outrage. Tomorrow is a weekday Monday again, so she and Longju didn't stay too long, and they were leaving for Jiangzhou Yushi together. By the way, Belug himself will provide props, which are similar to magic props that can be transformed directly. The same is true for Undulating Spiral and Dragon 9.0.2. The third grade basically has no courses, and goes directly to the office for internship every day. After the girls rested, digested and satiated, they greeted each other and left. P.S. Next, the length of USJ. As expected of the director, he is also very rich. Letting him be my little boyfriend is like fishing for a rich man. He always felt as if he was looking at someone, by the way, his maid Baruk. Not only professional hero S but also omnipotent in housework, so amazing. After a man spends time with a woman, no matter how strong he is, he always looks like this. Anzhe sighed leisurely looking at the blue sky and white clouds outside the window. In short, Xiangying spent the first week of school like this. 103 Use of the Breath of Death, terrified reporters. The first update, please subscribe. Interesting for you. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 179. 45. 60. The use of the breath of death, the frightened reporters. Sunday. On Monday. As usual, Anzhe got up and went to UA High School with her childhood friend Jiro Kyoka. The only difference is that at this moment, in front of the gate of UA High School, the road is blocked by densely packed reporters. How did you feel about the class at All Might? What does the symbol of peace look like on the podium? Anzhe glanced over and saw the classmates in the class, Yaoyorozu Momo, Iida Ida and others were being interviewed. Of course, the ulterior motives are not drinking. These reporters heard the news that All Might was teaching last week, and they were like cats smelling fish, scrambling to find and interview All Might. Speaking of which, Anzhe has always disliked being interviewed, and the spotlight is not so glorious. For the click-through rate of their news reports, these reporters always use various false titles and content, just to attract more readers' attention. Especially for the Flamingo incident, the 2009 reporters' two attitudes towards it are really disgusting. When the Flamingos tortured and killed criminals, these reporters tried their best to discredit the report. But after the Flamingo incident was exposed, these reporters tried their best to report regretfully. Do your best to pursue you when you are brilliant, and turn your face to disdain when you fall to the bottom. Not only that, what Anzhe is most dissatisfied with reporters is that they don't pay attention to the occasion at all. A situation like this completely interferes with school students' classes. After Anzhe became a professional hero, it's not that he didn't accept interviews, but they all communicated privately, agreed on a good time, and visited solemnly at the door, instead of being blocked by a swarm of bees in front of him. Well, Anzhe, many reporters are looking at us. Jiro Kyoka next to him gently tugged on Anzhe's clothes. Those outside reporters who couldn't get in, obviously spotted Anzhe, and his eyes stared at her with some trepidation in his heart. Look at mine. Get rid of these annoying guys. Except. Seeing Anzhe's upturned mouth, and walking forward, Jiro Kyoka was slightly taken aback. What on earth is he going to do? At the same time, reporters from all directions rushed towards Anzhe, instantly surrounding him. If you can't interview All Might, you can interview the mage. As a professional hero, how do you feel when you come to the UA High School that trains Hero S? Honored as the youngest professional hero in history, what do you think about that? Anzhe didn't answer, but raised his head slightly, his eyes were radiant with coldness, and he looked down at all the reporters. The magic power in his body circulated, emanating from a substantial black aura from his body. The breath of death. Immediately, all the reporters felt a monstrous murderous aura enveloping them, and some of them already felt their stomachs churning. And their scene seemed to change, standing among the pile of dead people in the sea of corpses and blood, surrounded by countless ugly and terrifying demons staring at them with blood-red eyes. The dark magic of the breath of death, as long as the magician lacks strength, standing in front of the caster will feel fear and nausea. Not to mention these non-magical reporters, there is no possibility of resisting at all. The reporter who was a little behind was okay, just retching with nausea. The reporters around Anzhe all sat down on the ground in horror. They didn't even dare to take the microphones and cameras, they just wanted to get away from Anzhe in the center in a panic. This is because Anzhe deliberately restrained himself and didn't use his full strength, otherwise he was worried that these reporters would be scared to death directly. Can I come over? The school bell is ringing. Anzhe stopped the breath of death, and spoke calmly. The voice was not loud, but it was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. You please. Times N. Countless answers were answered in unison, and the road at UA High School was immediately cleared. All the reporters stood in 2 rows and made way for the road in the middle. And they didn't even dare to wipe the cold sweat that kept coming out of their foreheads. They all thought about the scene just now with lingering fear, as if they were in hell. So awesome. Jiro Kyoka, who was traveling with Anzhe, couldn't help staring at the trembling reporters. Go, Kyoka, good. Anzhe's words made the girl tremble, and quickly followed the pace. The two walked into Shangli with a big swagger. After the figures of the two disappeared, some reporters breathed heavily with relief. They were actually scared like this by a student, even if the student was a professional hero. What was that just now? I don't know either. A reporter wiped the sweat from his forehead. He interviewed many professional heroes but never felt the pressure on Anzhe like today. That's the momentum. I had the same feeling when I interviewed Endeavor. It was exactly the same, it was incredible. An old reporter said that he once wanted to interview Endeavor for a mission, but he was stared at and dared not move. And they also remembered that the stronghold of the evolutionary organization was destroyed. This incident was also announced by the police later in response to the sudden death of the flamingo. The published information did not conceal the fact that Anzhe, who was a professional hero, killed a group of evolutionary members after the police issued a killing order. This incident also caused an uproar at the time. Although it was allowed by the law, everyone seemed to be unable to accept that Anzhe, an underage boy, was able to commit murder. Looking at it now, with the aura that Anzhe released today, it's no wonder that he has the soul to kill people. Okay, let's learn a lesson today. Don't interview Mage 130 like this again in the future. The old reporter said again, and the rest of the reporters also nodded deeply. Then, continue to interview the students or teachers who come to Yingying for class or work. I have to say that in terms of dedication, no reporter can compare. Jingle jingle. The class bell rang, and the first class today was with the head teacher, Aizawa Shota. Aizawa Shota still looked listless with kidney deficiency, holding a stack of heavy actual combat training reports in his hand, and then began to talk about the basics of heroes that afternoon. I didn't say anything, the review meeting was ordinary, and I simply put forward my opinions on each student. However, I mainly named 2 people, one is Bakugo Katsuki who shot without measure, and the other is Midoriya Izuku who seriously injured himself. As for Anzhe who had the same or even greater damage, because their fight was actually well controlled by Anzhe, at most Shoto Todoroki suffered a slight injury, so he was let go. Then, although it happened suddenly, let's get straight to the point, today Aizawa Shota's tantalizing tone made everyone in Class A slightly lift their hearts. As a result, Aizawa Shota said, the candidates for the lower school committee are decided. As soon as the voice fell, the air in the class was silent for a moment, and then boiled instantly. Class President Election. 104 Squad President Election, Mr. Principal and All Might Talk. Second update, please subscribe. The squad leader campaign ignited the passion of the students in Class A. I want to be the monitor. I want, too. The position of squad leader is simply born for me. Me. A small grape-headed Minoru Mineta blushed. Maybe he wanted to use his authority to do some embarrassing things after becoming the class monitor. For example, put the short skirts of all the girls in the class 30 centimeters above the knees. Please be quiet. At this time, Ida, who looked like a disciplinary committee member, stood up directly and made a loud proposal. We should use a democratic method to elect the real squad leader. Only those who are trusted and expected by others can hold this position. Ida continued. So I propose a voting system. As a result, everyone in the class complained. You have raised your hand so high, why are you still mentioning this? Iida-chan, you don't know everyone very well at the beginning of school, how could you vote for others? Asui Suyu expressed the aspirations of everyone must want to vote for himself to be the monitor, but. At this moment, everyone looked at Anzhe in unison, and the latter also blinked innocently. What are you looking at me for? Of course, Anzhe also knew that his performance this week was too strong. In terms of strength alone, everyone has to admire him, not to mention, he also helped to give advice. If a voting system is really adopted to elect the real squad leader, Anzhe will definitely have far more votes than other people. Rather, only people who are trusted and expected by others can take up the position of squad leader. Anzhe is such an existence in the eyes of most people in Class A. And the homeroom teacher, Aizawa Shota, took out a sleeping bag from nowhere, and fell to the ground like an armored chrysalis, with an attitude that you are happy. So in the end, when no one proposed a better way, it was decided to vote. Voting results. Aizawa Shota finally got up from his sleeping bag and glanced at the vote count on the blackboard. Green Valley Izuku got 1 vote, Yayorozu Momo got 2 votes, and everyone else voted for themselves or for the first place, the undisputed first place. Anzhe's votes, in the case of only 21 people in the class, got double-digit votes. It can be said to be what everyone expected. Anzhe was also slightly surprised by this result, not to himself, but to the number of votes from Izuku Green Valley. He glanced at the expressions of everyone in the class again. It seemed that LVGU and Iida had voted for him with their original votes. Needless to say, Jiro Kyoka, there is also Tokiyami Yinta who called Anzhe his life mentor, and Ashido Mina, the little fangirl, plus myself, there are 6 votes. There are still some people in the class who do not have a strong sense of presence, such as Shiro Honta, Sato Rikido, Kota Koji, etc., are not the characters who actively run for class president. They estimated that they followed suit and voted for themselves. Thinking about it this way, it is not surprising that they got more than 2 digits of votes. As for Yayorozu Momo's 2 votes, it should be the reason why she spoke actively in the review meeting. Then Anzhe is the monitor and Yayorozu Wan is the deputy monitor, said Aizawa Shota casually, and continued with the lesson. Yes, Anzhe and Yayorozu Momo nodded at the same time, taking over their positions. Anzhe himself actually thinks being a squad leader is a bit of a hassle, and it's not helpful to him at all for the benefits of the hero's road in the future. But those who can do more work, he also readily accepts the trust of his classmates and leads them as the class monitor. In the blink of an eye, the morning class is over. At noon, Anzhe and Jiro Kyoka were eating at the Yingying cafeteria. There was some commotion in the middle of the meal, and an alarm came from Yingying's radio. It is said that there was a big hole in the gate of Yingying. The reporters who were outside in the morning all rushed in. Anzhe's face was slightly solemn. The door's hardness was not something that could be destroyed by any trash, and the big hole was turned into pieces by some kind of force. With this kind of power, Anzhe instantly thought of Tamura Shigaraki, whose quirks collapsed. The riots caused by the reporters were soon suppressed by the Yingying school and the police who arrived. It seems that the USJ incident is coming. Anzhe murmured softly, her eyes flickered, and these emergencies can be sure to change in the USJ exercise course just like the original book. Speaking of which, the villains invaded, and Anzhe couldn't directly tell Yingying about it. He couldn't explain how he knew, and villains naturally meant unforeseen danger. In short, Anzhe feels the magic power in his body, and if any accident happens, he will definitely defeat the League of Villains gang. At the same time, in Yingying's lounge. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. The thin All Might bowed slightly, and said to the mouse-shaped principal, Mr. Principal. He was supposed to go with Aizawa Shota and no. 13 Heroes to teach the students at the USJ location. Then listen to me here for a while. I recently heard about a new existence that can break the balance. Its name is magic. Mr. Principal also added a cup of tea to All Might. Therefore, All Might only needs to be able to maintain the shape of the transformed muscles and show up at the end. It will take about an hour to recover. All Might, I have told you that your body does not allow you to be so aggressive. Mr. Principal stood on the sofa opposite All Might, made himself a cup of tea, and said in a helpless tone, you are not the only hero in the world, you have to learn to share the overwhelming sense of responsibility with others. Quote. Often with events, the body acts before thoughts. Well, Mr. Principal sighed and didn't say much, he knew the character of All Might very well. In fact, there are dozens of hero-s firms in this city alone. Even if All Might doesn't make a move, there will be professional hero-s from other firms rushing over. Seeing injustice, selflessness, and selfless dedication, All Might is just such a hero-s which will receive almost all praise from the outside world and be hailed as a symbol of peace. This is also the reason why he is now in a thin state and cannot teach normally. P.S. The second update, please subscribe. In the afternoon, the USJ exercise course for Hero-S science students does not need All Might to teach anything, and all rely on number 13, the rescue Hero-S. Because he was worried that if he did not take action, the innocent passers-by who encountered danger in the incident would be in greater danger. Good for Lee. However, I encountered many things on the road, which resulted in the use of strength for too long, and I was temporarily unable to transform into a muscle form. When will I be able to recover to the point where the transformation lasts for a while? Mr. Principal asked. I'm sorry. All Might lowered his head, and had nothing to say except to apologize. Quote. Just pick up the phone and look up the news. The news reported this morning is how many incidents All Might solved in the morning. Rather, All Might is too active, so many Hero-S cannot receive commissions from Combat Hero-S, which is very painful. 105 USJ Disaster Simulation Site, League of Villains is coming. The third update, please subscribe. Afternoon is coming. As the class bell rang, Aizawa Shota walked into the classroom with a yawn. This afternoon's Hero-S basics need to be supervised by me, All Might, and another teacher named No. 13. Excuse me, what is the method? Iida raised his hand and asked. Aizawa Shota took out a rescue from behind, translated it as a rescue card, held it up in front of the students and answered. This time Hero-S basics are to teach you rescue training, referred to as USJ. For example, floods, various accidents such as fires and earthquakes. Rescue training, which aroused Anzhe's interest. After all, his learning of knowledge in this area was completely targeted learning for the license exam during the special training given to him by the empty ghost soul. The other students in the class also showed excitement, and seemed to be looking forward to what their quirks could do in these disaster scenarios. The reason is like the reputation of the fire nemesis in Anzhe's office. Compared with fighting, rescue is still more in line with Hero's job, and it also feels more fulfilling. Looking at the students talking a lot, Aizawa showed aside, their attitude was still very relaxed. Real rescue is not a joke, let alone an easy task. Aizawa Shota hung his bloodshot eyes, and continued, quickly get all 450 to change into combat uniforms and gather downstairs. The training ground is a bit far from here. Let's take a bus there. Above, start preparing. After Aizawa Shota finished speaking, he left the classroom directly, and he wanted to arrange a bus. Everyone in Class A also went to change their battle uniforms, and Anzhe, who didn't need to change his battle uniforms, also followed Aizawa Shota's pace. As the class monitor, he has to lead the students on the bus, even though he always feels a bit like a primary school student. Assembly of Class A of the first year, line up in 2 rows and get on the bus in an orderly manner. Soon, after everyone changed their battle uniforms, Anzhe let them get on the bus in an orderly manner, and was the last one to get on the bus. The benefit of being a class monitor is that there are no seats left, so I can only sit with teacher Aizawa Shota. It's a bit miserable. Ajeb. Afterwards, the bus started to drive, and the students began to chat. After all, there was still some distance to the training place. Although my hardening quirks are very powerful for people, they are too earthy and have no bright spots. Hiroshima Eijiro stretched out his arms and used quirks, the soft skin became hard instantly, and his arms were like steel. He is a very cheerful person, quite active, and has the power to infect others. Under the topic he raised, everyone began to express their opinions on their quirks. Hiroshima Eijiro said to Anzhe, but I think Hero's still needs some attractive highlights, like Anzhe your gorgeous quirks, which are fire, ice, powerful and eye-catching. You can also say that the source of my ability is not quirks, but magic. Anzhe's sudden speech directly revealed the existence of magic. Suddenly, the bustling bus became silent, and even Aizawa Shota next to Anzhe was slightly startled. They were full of bewilderment, probably because they were too surprised by the word called magic thrown out of Anzhe's mouth. You'll understand right away. Anzhe showed a meaningful smile. His sudden speech was naturally a plan he had planned long ago. Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan's corresponding preparations are almost at the last step. So plant a seed now and wait quietly for the day when it will germinate and bear fruit. All the way without words. After a while, the bus drove to a huge round egg-shaped building like a huge baseball field. Everyone in Class A got off the bus and went to the gate of the rescue training field. That's amazing. Is this USJ? Wow, my favorite number 13, super active gentleman Hero's in disaster relief. At the entrance of the building, there was a person wearing a space suit waiting for everyone, and some students immediately recognized her, number 13 Hero's. This is the top-level professional hero in disaster relief just like Blazing Firebuster S. Her quirks are black holes, also a jet-like thing in her hands that can cast a black hole that absorbs everything into it. To a certain extent, this black hole quirks is extremely lethal. Of course, it is also very versatile in rescue and can solve various unexpected situations. I've been waiting for you for a long time, let's go in. A girl's soft voice came from Feng Hang's suit. Anzhe was slightly taken aback, but he had never noticed the gender issue of number 13 Hero's. After all, he was wrapped in a space suit. Hero's on the 13th walked into the venue with everyone in Class A, and began to explain. This is a simulated scene of various disasters and accidents, including floods, soil and sand, earthquake collapses, fires, etc. The storm, etc., is a practice field created by me, and this place can be called USJ. After Hero's finished explaining on the 13th, Aizawa Shota came over and asked in a low voice, how about All Might on the 13th? Didn't you agree to meet here? Senior. This, All Might he has been. Number 13 has a respectful attitude, it seems that she is still a descendant of Aizawa Shota. Then he told the reason why Aizawa Shota was speechless. All Might actually solved several incidents in one morning and ran out of time to transform into a muscular form. Hopefully there will be no accidents. Aizawa Shota prayed in his heart, and he had another strange premonition, which was very bad. Suddenly, it seemed to confirm Aizawa Shota's bad premonition. In the Central Park pool in front of everyone's eyes, the space twisted like a vortex. The weird Kurogiri permeated the USJ venue. Aizawa Shota's pupils contracted sharply immediately, and the feeling of this bad premonition coming true was really unbearable. Then, from the black vortex, a man with the appearance of an orangutan walked out. Immediately behind him was a boy who was grasped by several weird hands, and he had the appearance of being a black season. Then, there were a lot of weird-shaped guys who looked like miscellaneous fishes and jumped out. Yamamoto Ape, Tamura Shigaraki, Kurogiri. It is worth noting that these 3 people made Anzhe's eyes become serious and sharp in an instant. It seems that the League of Villains, invasion of USJ happened after all. 106 Tamura Shigaraki's transformation, Aizawa Shota's weakness. 4th update, please subscribe. Facing a bunch of weird-looking guys who suddenly appeared, everyone in Class A who had not developed an attitude and vigilance, except for a few people, mostly had a relaxed expression. They didn't realize the dangerous situation, thought it was a part of the course arrangement, and even wanted to step forward to take a closer look. Don't move around, gather quickly. Aizawa Shota yelled sharply, stopped the students who wanted to go forward, and continued. Those are villains, enemy attack. What? Everyone in Class A let out unbelievable exclamations. It was unbelievable that the villains dared to directly attack the UA high school where All Might is located. Villains, enemy attack. These are so unfamiliar to the hero's students who are just entering the school, and they have no psychological defense at all. Living in this preternatural society of quirks, they must have seen criminals who were considered villains. But I have seen it, faced it with myself, and become one of the goals of the villains. These are two completely different feelings. Looking at those villains again, the menacing appearance constantly released frightening malice, making most of the students' bodies tremble. Not timid. At this time, when faced with a life and death crisis, the instinctive reaction of ordinary people is unavoidable. Meanwhile, the villains here. Ape Yamamoto looked at Anzhe and the others, frowned, and murmured, "No. 13 Hero S. Eraserhead, the name of Hero S. of Aizawa Shota, Anzhe the mage. It shouldn't be. Why are these 3 Hero S present?" According to the information they got, All Might should also attend this USJ disaster simulation course. Then, Yamamoto Saru glanced at Kurogiri. His quirks were excellent, and he had to rely on him whether it was a surprise attack or a retreat. But Tamura Shigaraki next to Kurogiri is different. When he was rescued by Kurogiri in the bar, he had a grudge against Tamura Shigaraki for how he treated him. And now this guy has lost the favor of AFO, and he is the main planner of this raid on USJ. "You're trash. How did you get information?" Yamamoto kicked Tamura Shigaraki's chest directly, causing the latter to fly upside down and curl up in pain. He continued, "If All Might is not present, everything we have planned it's all in vain. At least you should bear the responsibility for this dereliction of duty." Ape Yamamoto not only has the intention of revenge, but also has inner anxiety. The task of probing the depth of All Might is not allowed to fail. The stronghold was destroyed, and this failure was extremely lucky to escape. Of course, the price was more than a year. He spent days and nights researching Quirks strengthening potion like sleepless nights. Finally, technology has made a breakthrough. Quirks strengthening potion. Within a certain period of time, the ability of quirks in the body can be increased by about half without any side effects. Quirks rage potion. Directly doubles the abilities of quirks in the body, at the cost of the injector's vitality, until the vitality is exhausted, which means death. Make up for it. The merits of Yamamoto's breakthrough in research make him equal his merits and demerits, but if this mission fails again. His immediate boss, the doctor who treated AFO's body, would never allow him to have a subordinate who failed twice in a row. Then kill this group of students. All Might will definitely appear. He is a symbol of peace. Tamura Shigaraki stood up with difficulty, wiped the blood from the wound on the corner of his lower mouth, and lowered his head to give advice. That's true. Yamamoto nodded when he heard it, and prepared to direct the people he brought over to attack, leaving Tamura Shigaraki alone. But what he didn't know was that Tamura Shigaraki, who was lowered to his friends, was crazily restrained, and his eyes were filled with endless bloodshot eyes. He has now learned how to keep calm without scratching his neck, or this method was forced out. Just as Yamamoto dared to treat himself like this, the teacher he respected treated him. Endless hatred turned into a stern look, all hidden deep in his pupils. Well, Kurogiri next to him saw all this happening and didn't stop it. He also knew all about it. Speaking of it, he is like a housekeeper like an old lady, but of course the only one who can really obey his orders is the AFO Lord. It's just that he is familiar with Tamura Shigaraki's character, and he feels that Tamura Shigaraki, who is being treated indifferently and ruthlessly by everyone at the moment, and he himself has endured it, is very scary. Back to Anzhe. Number 13, protect the students and take them away. Aizawa Shota looked stern, but the villain's appearance sensor did not respond. It seems that there are radio wave quirks in the villains that completely blocked and intercepted the signal. And the villains knew that All Might was going to come here for class, and the most difficult situation was that the US venue was far away from Shangying. 0. Seeking flowers. Now being attacked by villains, it is difficult for reinforcements to arrive. Originally, I asked All Might to come to the class together just in case, but the gate was destroyed at noon today, causing reporters to enter Shangying. No matter how you look at it, it was done by the villains to investigate intelligence. But at such a critical moment, All Might actually used up his daily transformation time. Obviously there are many Hero S firms around. Is he trying to make other professional Hero S unemployed? But it's useless to complain now. The important thing is how to delay the arrival of reinforcements. Aizawa Shota wears the fighting goggles hidden in the neck bandage, which can be used to hide who he is using the erasing quirks on, so as to confuse the opponent. 0.0. His body trembled slightly, and he adjusted himself to a fighting state, ready to rush into the pile of villains on his own initiative. Wait a moment. At this time, Anzhe stopped Aizawa Shota, knowing that in the original plot, he was rescued by many accidents. But in this real world where the plot is out of track, it is hard to say what changes and accidents will happen, especially Yamamoto Ape and the quirk strengthening agent he researched. Even those villains who look like miscellaneous fish, after taking these medicines, can definitely become troublesome existences. Aizawa-sensei, are you going to face villains alone? But your quirks are not good at dealing with plural villains. Anzhe knows that Aizawa Shota's erasure of quirks can eliminate the quirks of people in his field of vision, but his ability will be invalid once he blinks. This quirks has two weaknesses. One is that the quirks are ineffective against the quirks of the release system and the body's shaped bottom. The other is his own. Because of quirks, he suffers from dry eye syndrome, with his eyes open all the time, so quirks cannot be activated for a long time. That's why Aizawa Shota appeared in front of the students, always looking like he couldn't wake up. Really. Regarding what Anzhe meant, Aizawa Shota shook his head helplessly. As expected of Anzhe, a mage who became a professional hero at a young age, he even noticed this. But at this moment, he must not shrink back. If even as a teacher, he retreats for safety, who can the students behind him rely on? In order to make the students feel at ease, he must fight head-on. 107 Kurogiri's blocking, 4 Ninja Turtles. The first update, please subscribe. If you only have one skill, you can't be a hero. Aizawa Shota left a handsome back view of the students in Class A, and then pulled off the special capture bandage on his neck. Mage Anzhe, as a professional hero, and monitor, lead the students well and ensure their safety. After finishing his last sentence, Aizawa Shota rushed over without hesitation, forming a ball with many villains. After seeing Aizawa Shota, the leading villains used Quirks without hesitation in an attempt to kill him. But at the moment of launching Quirks, they were horrified to find that their Quirks could not be used, and then they were bound by Aizawa Shota's bandages and threw heavy falls and flew to the stream and fell unconscious. In this case, the Yamamoto monkey and the villains also let the Quirks subordinates of the alien system rush to face Aizawa Shota in time. For the Quirks who changed the appearance of 310, Aizawa Shota's erasure of Quirks cannot be eliminated. But Hero S are Hero S. Aizawa Shota nimbly wandered among several alien villains, while dodging the attack, Yudo punched the opponent's forehead and then dealt it with a bandage. Suddenly he saw many villains around him. The combat ability is very strong, and it is very troublesome to erase Quirks, and there are goggles that block the line of sight. As expected of a professional hero, it is troublesome enough in a short time. Yamamoto Ape still has time to comment, these the so-called subordinates are all scumbags hired by money, their lives, who cares? Listen, everyone, use the Quirks, strengthening, potion, and your rewards will be doubled afterwards. Yamamoto's mouth curled into a sinister smile, and he shouted loudly to the people on his side. Immediately, these little people hiding in the dark corners of the deep ditch of the city all showed greedy and excited eyes, and injected the Quirks strengthening potion from Yamamoto's ape mouth without hesitation. In fact, it is Quirks berserk potion, the kind that will kill you if you run out of vitality. But the color of both liquids is golden, and Yamamoto used the Quirks strengthening potion to deceive these people into thinking that they can still complete the task and get paid. At the same time, he turned to Kurogiri and said, Kurogiri, go and stop number 13 and the wizard Anzhe, and send 4 Ninja Turtles. Kurogiri nodded, turned into a black vortex, and disappeared in place. On the other side, Anzhe and No. 13 Hero S led everyone in Class A to the exit. Anzhe said while running, Kaminari, use your Quirks to try to contact the school. Iida, your Quirks are great for running long distances, and you'll be the first to rush out to the school for reinforcements later. Anzhe, who is the squad leader and even a hero, stood up and gave orders as the backbone at this time. And the last words Aizawa Shota said before rushing towards the villains, everyone in Class A could hear clearly, even Bakugo Katsuki who was unhappy looked obediently obeyed. Anzhe looked towards the emergency exit that was getting closer. If nothing else happened, Kurogiri would come to stop them later. Kaminari Denki was the same as the original plot, but found that the signal was blocked and could not contact Wazy for the time being. Anzhe wasn't too worried either. Kurogiri would be foolish to stop them all by himself, unless he wasn't alone. At this moment, a black vortex appeared in front of everyone. From the weird black vortex, a Kurogiri dressed in Kurogiri appeared, staring at them with yellow eyes and said, if you want to escape, you can't. We are the League of Villains when we first met. At this moment, dusk. The low-hanging clouds were tinged yellow with the sun beginning to recline. Everyone in Class A looked solemnly at the villains who suddenly appeared. Unlike the others, Anzhe just wanted to see what tricks Kurogiri was going to play again. Forgive me for being presumptuous. This time we are here to visit UA High School, the base camp of Hero S, in order to completely kill the symbol of peace. Surprisingly, Kurogiri bowed politely, giving the illusion that he is a gentleman. But the antisocial remarks he said immediately made the other students and No. 13 Hero S nervous again. Before that, do you still want to be frozen by me again? Anzhe's eyes flickered, full of icy coldness. He clasped his hands together, creating magic power, and the shape of ice, a fishing net. At the same time, Anzhe turned his back to the crowd and shouted loudly, Iida, run. Hearing this, Anzhe had already emphasized the importance of bringing reinforcements to Iida, and acted immediately without any hesitation. He flanked Kurogiri, used Quirks, and ran for the emergency exit in top third gear. And the huge ice fishing net made by Anzhe's ice modeling magic is overwhelming, trying to cover Kurogiri and freeze it. It's really dangerous. I don't want to face your freezing again. The black vortex appeared again, and Kurogiri's figure appeared behind everyone again. He expected the scene of being attacked, and directly gave way to the emergency exit. Rather, the purpose of their coming here is to test All Might, and now they can't wait for someone to escape quickly and attract All Might who heard the news. It is probably also the place where the most intense conflicts between people who are affected by Quirks, people who have Quirks, and ordinary people are at the beginning of the birth of Quirks. Reminiscent of the evolutionary to which Ape Yamamoto belongs, it seems that the organization of the evolutionary is quite powerful, and even the location of the old nest is likely to be in the United States. Anzhe clicked her lips in disdain. There is also the comic work of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in my English world. It seems that you have heard of our name. The four turtles each posed a pose, and continued. We are the four Ninja Turtles 0.4 who are determined to imitate the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they are also super criminals. Quote. P.S. The first update, please subscribe. And the weapons they hold in their hands are nunchucks, long sticks, double knives, and double forks. Come out. The four Ninja Turtles drag the wizard on bong. Orange, purple, blue, red. Huh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles over there in America. I want to know who gave you the courage to come here. Kurogiri's yellow pupils shrank sharply, using quirks, and two spaces were established. This conjecture is derived from the origin of the professional hero's first from the United States. I mentioned it in the English comic. From another space, came out four green tortoises who looked like quadruplets. Anzhe didn't rush to make a move, he didn't think Kurogiri would be so stupid to stop them by himself. Cut. Cosplay lovers only. However, the super criminals in the population of these four turtles are only popular in the United States, which means that they are from the United States. The only thing that can be distinguished is that they wear different colored turbans on their heads. Anzhe looked at the four villains who suddenly appeared in front of him, his face full of bewilderment, and he wondered if these four people had gone to the wrong place. 108 Ice Blade 7 Dances, the absorbed fire dragon roars. Second update, please subscribe. Sub-quest trigger. Defeat the four Ninja Turtles, task reward, B-level lucky draw once. Close black lens bracket. The four Ninja Turtles claim to imitate the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, with similar looks and prominent turbans. Hearing the cold mechanical sound of the system, Anzhe asked the four Ninja Turtles, would it be the same nicknames for the four of you? It's called Purple Grape, right? Of course, we are the reincarnated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. While talking, the four turtles quietly surrounded Anzhe in all directions. Anzhe complained. But I remember the goal of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is to protect the city's home city and fight against evil forces, right? But you are solemnly calling yourself super criminals. All this is for the future of our evolutionaries, and you are the evil forces. Wearing a blue turban, who also seemed to be the leader, Blue Thunderbolt raised his two knives at Anzhe, his eyes full of anger. That was not the anger released against Anzhe. After all, there was no enmity between the two, and it was the first time they met. Looks like it's the beginning of the birth of Quirks again, the dispute between people with appearances affected by quirks and normal people. 09 Anzhe shook his head, he was not interested in pursuing it any further, what he was interested in now was defeating they, get mission rewards. Moreover, he turned his head to look to the other side, and Kurogiri also started to make a move, spreading a thick fog, intending to bring everyone in Class A to an unknown space. The area before the emergency exit seemed to be divided into two battlefields. Baruk. Through telepathy, Anzhe asked Beloved to come to support the students of number 13 in Class A. He turned his head back and looked at the four Ninja Turtles in front of him. Hurry up to defeat them, get the mission rewards, and go to support the classmates and Mr. Aizawa Shota. God's feet. Galloping wind. The power of steel wrists. The power of armor. Inside the body magic is at work. Several magic circles appeared on his body. Anzhe's eyes were sharp, and he blessed himself with all the auxiliary magic he had mastered in one go. Not good, stop him quickly. Seeing this, Lan Pili frowned, and greeted the other three. Among them, Hongdu Bing, who was wearing a red turban and holding a double fork, rushed over first. Call. A gust of wind hit, and Hongdu Bing's footsteps suddenly stopped, because Anzhe disappeared from his sight. This speed made him widen his eyes, extremely horrified. How can? Boom. There was a dull kicking sound, Anzhe appeared right behind Hongdu Bing, and he kicked his tortoise shell continuously with both feet. The next moment, Hongdu Bing flew upside down and rolled several times on the ground. How dare you invade heroes with this strength? The reborn Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, stop joking. Anzhe mocked the three of them indifferently, and looked at the three of them as ants in his eyes. Of course, he was actually trying to annoy the four Ninja Turtles, after all, they don't know the quirks of these people. UB************* D. Red Bean Ice. Sunkissed, wearing an orange turban, shouted anxiously, and first went to the place where the red bean ice was flying upside down to check on his situation. After hearing Anzhe's words, Lan Pili's face bulged with veins. Ninja, Hayate. Lan Pili roared, a blue light appeared on his body, and his figure disappeared instantly. Oh, looks like a speed Quirks. The corner of Anzhe's mouth was raised, maybe it was so in other people's eyes, thanks to his observation ability, he could clearly see the position of Blue Thunderbolt. Ice Blade 7 Dances. Anzhe put his hands behind his back, frost emerged, and two ice blades extended from his arms. Villains is a two-handed weapon, so he also has a two-handed weapon. Anzhe launched an attack first, and collided fiercely with the double knives in Lan Lily's hands. In an instant, countless strong sparks splashed, gorgeous and deadly. The continuous flickering knife lights that were invisible to the naked eye, as well as the rapid changing speed of the two, made it impossible for the remaining three turtles around to join the battle. Only two afterimages could be seen colliding continuously, then separated, and then collided together again. Gradually, the figure of the two fighting together became clear, or the speed of one side slowed down. Blue Thunderbolt. His appearance can be described as miserable, with several wounds and bloodstains all over his body, even the hardest turtle shell is covered with wounds. It seems that my speed is faster than yours. Anzhe smiled confidently, and crossed his hands for the last blow. Lan Lily didn't have time to draw back his knife to defend, and with the bloom of the blood rose on his chest, he also flew out backwards. Blue Thunderbolt. The familiar anxious cry. This time it was Purple Grape wearing a purple turban, and he also ran to the place where Blue Thunder flew upside down to check his injuries. As the relationship between Quirks strengthening potion. Anzhe put away the magic power maintained by the ice blade, stood still and did not rush to continue attacking. He knew that Blue Thunderbolt and Red Bean Bing, who had been defeated by him, didn't actually suffer too much damage. At most, Blue Thunderbolt's injury was more serious, and the damage from the blade and the ice was double. But if it were an ordinary person, he would definitely not have the ability to resist anymore, but with the support of Purple Grape, the Blue Thunderbolt in front of him slowly stood up. The wound has healed, except for the pale lips that were turned blue by the ice. Even if the four of them are tortoises, such defensive power is absolutely abnormal. The roar of his fire dragon was actually absorbed by the turtle shell. Anzhe punched each other with both fists and put them in front of his mouth. A majestic magical power burst out suddenly. However, the same goes for the other three, all of them retracted their limbs and heads into the turtle shell. The roar of the dragon. He opened his mouth, and there seemed to be a flame burning on his tongue, burning with a terrifying temperature. Anzhe frowned. Immediately, the Purple Grape's tortoise shell turned completely fiery red, but there was no follow-up. P.S. The second update, please subscribe. The roar of the fire dragon he spouted was divided into 3 parts by the turtle shell of the Purple Grape, and the surface of the turtle shell that was used to resist in the center kept turning red. With an exclamation, the 4 tortoises instantly changed into formation and stood in a row. With such a large attack range, the 4 ninja turtles who happened to be standing side by side had absolutely no time to dodge. The Purple Grape with a long stick was at the front. He slammed the long stick on the ground, turned around and aimed the turtle shell at the incoming flames, and retracted his limbs and head into the turtle shell. Purple Grapes. Anzhe shook his head 300 times, not thinking, let's just get rid of all the 4 ninja turtles in one go. In addition, the 4 of them belong to the evolutionary organization. The next moment, the turtle shell meets the flame. The violent flames roared and tore apart the sky, incinerating everything in its path. 109 Shape of Ice. ISO Spring, and Baloo comes on stage. The first update, please subscribe. It's hot, it's hot, it's hot. In Anzhe's sight, Purple Grape jumped out from the top of the turtle shell, and threw it away after being roasted by the flames into a fiery red turtle shell. The tortoise man without the tortoise shell looks quite strange. Purple Grape, I'll help you. The one who spoke was Red Bean Bing with a red turban, and the forks in his hand were suddenly covered with a layer of frost, and touched the fiery red turtle shell. Thorn. The ear-piercing sound of hot and cold meeting, accompanied by a burst of white mist. Hongdu Bing slammed his forks away. He looked at Anzhe realistically and tremblingly, and swallowed hard. This kind of absolute disparity in natural mutual restraint could not arouse any thought of resistance at all. Looking at Purple Grape again, he said with admiration, it's really thanks to you that you were able to defend yourself. It all depends on the Quirks strengthening potion, otherwise I will never be able to defend against it. Purple Putao shook his head with lingering fear. He was the one with the strongest defense among the 4 of them, and he was known as impenetrable. But the feeling of being scorched by Anzhe's flame, even though separated by a layer of tortoise shell, he was unwilling to try it a second time. In short, the red bean ice touched the red fork with frost several times to the flaming turtle shell to cool down. Ice Quirks. Interesting. Anzhe nodded thoughtfully, raised a suspicion, and asked directly, you guys, you are not just here to hold me back, are you? Hearing this, the 4 ninja turtles looked at each other, and did not fail to answer, and said in affirmative, yes. Rather, they hoped that Anzhe would talk more and waste some time, so as to better benefit the others. When they planned to invade heroes, they considered Anzhe's accidental career hero S. He was showing off in the League of Villains headquarters, but in the end even the AFO master managed to escape. To be honest, Nomu's combat power is going to test All Might, and Anzhe has no extra combat power to deal with it. So when Yamamoto Saru and Kurogiri planned, they came up with this method, to hold Anzhe back as much as possible. There are 4 ninja turtles, the so-called 4 turtles have excellent defensive power. So that's how it is. Anzhe raised his arm, the magic power was running, and he created with one hand, the shape of ice, frisbee. Immediately, Anzhe's left hand used ice magic to create a frisbee, such a simple creation, he could still do it with one hand. Then, he threw a violent throw with his left hand, and threw it towards the 4 ninja turtles. Although the ice frisbee looks ugly, but when it rotates at a high speed, the sharpness produced is enough to cut the body open. Red Bean Ice. Without the prompting of other team members, Hongdubing has already taken the first step forward, and Zhou Shang has also produced a layer of water. Click. There was the sound of breaking ice, and the turtle shell behind the Red Bean Ice left deep scratches. Immediately afterwards, the magic power of Anzhe's right hand formed a wave of thunder magic, like thunder in his palm, and cast it towards the 4 ninja turtles. Sunkist. Sunkist, wearing an orange turban, came to the front of the Red Bean Ice again and blocked Anzhe's lightning attack. The lightning in his palm was absorbed by the turtle shell like the roar of a fire dragon. Acceleration, defense, ice, thunder. Anzhe murmured softly, and had to say that Villains was really well prepared to hold him back. All the quirks of the ninja turtles, while blocking Anzhe's attack, are not completely without the ability to fight. But that's it. Anzhe, who tested out the quartet of ninja turtles and quirks, hit with both hands. Just let them defend, he just ignores their defense. The shape of ice. Anzhe rushed forward, her footsteps were windy, and the ground condensed. The four ninja turtles who didn't understand what Anzhe was going to do simply shrank into their shells. They were confident that their shells would definitely be able to block Anzhe's attack. Ice-O's spring. Anzhe knocked on the ground with his hands of ice magic power, and a huge ice-blue magic circle appeared. The next moment, the temperature of the air dropped sharply, as if freezing. The ground is broken. Spring water springs up. The gushing spring water is like a hill-like pyramid shape, wrapping the four ninja turtles in it, and then freezing. Attack is useless. Control. Congratulations to the host for completing the side mission and winning a B-level lottery. Close black lens bracket. Anzhe got up and patted the ice in his hands, and was satisfied with the cold mechanical sound of the system. The freezing effect of the ice spring, maybe for a while, the four ninja turtles hiding in the turtle shell can resist it. But the problem is they can't break free either. There are also surrounding villains. If you want to melt this hill-like ice spring, it will take half a day in the case of flame quirks. At least if they had this spare time, the USJ invasion would have ended long ago. Therefore, the system judged that what Anzhe did was considered to have defeated the four ninja turtles. Meanwhile, another battlefield. Kurogiri opened the black portal, with a width and height of 4 to 5 meters, and rushed towards all the students in front of him. Oops. Get out of the way, everyone. Don't be enveloped by Kurogiri. Hero S number 13 in the back reminded the students in front, but it was too late. When Kurogiri dispersed, only No. 13 Hero S Uraraka Ochako, Shoji Mezzo, Shiro Honta, and Sato Rikido remained. The rest of the students were sent to nowhere by Kurogiri's portal. Number 13, who didn't know Kurogiri's specific quirks ability, looked rather gloomy. For those students who were passed away, I'm afraid it's more ominous than good. For such a major breach of responsibility, especially as a professional rescue hero, S number 13 is very angry now. Kurogiri said. Although I don't know why All Might is not here, but as long as his students are in danger, he will definitely come. This is my mission. Quote. Kurogiri's task is to defeat number 13 and disperse all the students, teleport them to several simulated disaster areas in the USJ site, and then use their numerical advantage to defeat them one by one. Black hole. Hero S on the 13th was very anxious. She was worried about the safety of the students. She didn't have the heart to talk nonsense with Kurogiri. This is the quirks of No. 13 Hero S black holes, which can theoretically absorb all objects. Its lethality. I am afraid that as long as she is given a chance, even AFO or All Might will be absorbed into the black hole, leaving no bones left. Kurogiri let out an unbelievable exclamation, completely unexpected that when he was about to succeed, he was forced to give up all his previous efforts. In the next moment, a huge force of attraction suddenly burst out from the mouth of the nozzle, like the black hole in her mouth, devouring everything. But it was too late, and it took a certain amount of time to stop the black hole, but when Kurogiri was about to be absorbed by the black hole, he opened a portal in front of him. However, Kurogiri didn't feel panicked at all, his yellow eyes were slightly curved. Not to mention that her reason was affected by emotion, she realized her carelessness, and stopped using quirks immediately. Kurogiri declared victory arrogantly, as if he had seen the scene where 13 was about to be killed by his own quirks. She took off the gloves of the space suit, revealing a dark and bottomless pass. No. 13 Hero S has a dark secret. She is a rescue hero S and has very little experience in actual combat. P.S. The first update, please subscribe. What? Hero S who are active in disaster relief, unfortunately, their experience in actual combat is not as good as that of ordinary Hero S, it's already too late. And Kurogiri's entire misty body is like dust being sucked into a vacuum cleaner. No, Li Wang Zhao is good. Suddenly, the ground next to the two of them broke open and mud splashed everywhere. The other side of the portal is the back side of number 13. A maid girl with Sakura hair wearing a maid outfit and an expressionless face appeared unexpectedly. 110 Kurogiri who escaped, the situation of everyone in Class A. Second update, please subscribe. Baluj, come to help at the master's order. Baluj blinked her blue pupils, bent down and bowed unhurriedly, with impeccable etiquette. The cave of the Pearl Star. Then, Baruk put his hands together, the magic power condensed, and the magic circle appeared, forming a ball of light and attacking Kurogiri. Damn it! Seeing the ball of light approaching him, exuding terrifying power, Kurogiri stopped the portal behind number 13, but immediately launched a escape to the distance, in front of him. Damn, land this fast support quirks. Kurogiri, who appeared from the black vortex in the distance, stared at Balug with pity and remorse. He literally nearly let Hero S number 13 die on his own quirks. But the pink-haired maid arrived and attacked in time, making him afraid to continue, because although the black hole quirks of No. 13 Hero S could not be closed instantly under her control, its power was greatly reduced. But I was defenseless, and if I took a blow from the opponent's light ball, he would definitely die first, and then No. 13 Hero S would only be injured. Thank you. What profession are you, Hero S? Number 13 looked at the maid girl who called herself Baluj with lingering fear. If it hadn't been for the timely action of the other party, she would not dare to imagine her own consequences. Baruk shook his head and said blankly, I'm not a professional Hero S, I'm the master's exclusive maid. 060, ha, master. Number 13 tilted his head, completely ignoring the meaning of Bai song. At this time, footsteps sounded, and everyone looked at the source of the sound, which was Anzhe. What? The four ninja turtles have been dealt with. Heishui's yellow eyes were frantically erratic, enough to reveal the panic in his heart at the moment. He hurriedly looked towards the battlefield on the other side, and saw 4 round figures in the huge ice cone mountain, and he couldn't say anything at once. Failed. Kurogiri lowered his head helplessly, and the portal quietly appeared. His mission had failed, and if he continued to stay, he might suffer the same disaster as the 4 of them. Thinking of the scene of being frozen by Anzhe that day, Kurogiri was trembling all over. He didn't want to experience it again. Escape. Portal. Escape back to the side of Yamamoto Ape and Tamura Shigaraki. Back to Anzhe. After finishing the villains, he went to No. 13 Hero S and said, "Teacher number 13, are you okay?" No. Number 13 was slightly taken aback, and the group realized it. Master, the order has been completed. At this time, Baruk bowed his head and turned towards Anzhe. Wait, your master is Anzhe. Number 13 was startled, feeling a little astonished. This is. Anzhe hesitated for a while, and organized the language to make up, but who knew that Baluj said it first? Yes, I am the maid who the master trains and punishes every day, especially yesterday. I will never forget the pain. Finally, Balu no longer had a blank face, but showed an intoxicated look. Just looking at it would make people around them blush and want to know what happened to Anzhe yesterday. Boom. With a heavy punch, it hit Baluj directly on the head. With a kind smile on his face, Anzhe pressed Balug's head down, turned his head and pulled the corner of his mouth. Teacher number 13, please don't pay attention to her nonsense. Okay. The appearance of number 13 who couldn't even speak clearly made Anzhe feel very helpless, unscientific. He remembered that in the fairy tale Eclipse and Star Spirit chapter, Baluj had changed from shaking M to shaking S, but now that he has become the master, Baluj has completely fallen on the road of shaking M, and he definitely met people on purpose just say it. Compared to this, the most important thing now is to determine the safety of the students. Anzhe changed the subject with righteous words, and immediately made number 13 no longer joking. Anzhe nodded, uttered a spell lightly, and the dragon wings spread out behind him. Soaring into the sky, overlooking the whole situation. With the physique of a dragon, Anzhe's eyesight is quite terrifying, and the so-called eagle eyes cannot be compared at all. The USJ site has a total of 6 disaster simulation areas: earthquake collapse, earth and sand, mountains, fire, flood, and storm, and the central area where Aizawa Shota is fighting. Earthquake collapse area. AJED, Anzhe saw Bakugo Katsuki and Kirishima Ejiro, who seemed to be teleported by Kurogiri into a leaning building. By the window, on the ground, and on the wall, there are villains lying unconscious. Sure enough, these miscellaneous fish-level villains, even with the Quirks enhancement potion, are no match for Bakugo at all. The next one. Soil and sand area. Anzhe saw Shoto Todoroki, Toru Hagakuri floating in school uniform, and Aoyama Yuga fishing. All the villains in this area are covered by ice. Alright, let's look at the next area. Speaking of which, Anzhe recalled the plot in his mind, and it seems that the people and areas sent by Kurogiri have not changed much. Mountain area. Anzhe saw his childhood sweetheart Jiro Kyoka, Yaoyorozu Momo and Kaminari Denki, and the 3 were teleported to the top of the mountain. With the lightning magic that Kyoka has mastered now, it should be easy to clean up these miscellaneous fish, but I'm afraid of accidents. Anzhe became worried, and decided to let Baluj support her later. It happened that her magic was earth type. Flooded area. Green Valley Izuku, Asui Suyu, and Minoru Mineta, 3 people on the ship, were besieged by a group of villains. But not surprisingly, in the end, relying on Green Valley's strategy, the 3 of them will cooperate to solve all villains. Next, storm area. It seems that there is no need to worry. But the latter didn't care at all, and trusted Anzhe very much, and went to support the fire area. It seems that Ojiro Mashirao is struggling to resist, and has been using Quirks' tail as a tool, jumping and running away. He looked at Aizawa Shota who was fighting in the central area, ready to help. Baluj nodded respectfully, used earth submergence magic, and went to the mountain to support. Baluj, you go to the mountain area to support Kyoka. Looks like support is needed. And Anzhe came not far from the emergency exit alone, and reached the stair rest platform below the central area. Immediately afterwards, Anzhe pointed out the location to Baluj. Number 13 was the person who built the USJ site, so he naturally knew the locations of all areas of the venue, but Baluj didn't know. The last one, the fire zone. Teacher number 13, the fire area needs your support. Anzhe issued orders directly, as if ignoring that he was a student and number 13 was the teacher. PS2. The second update, please subscribe. PS. 555. I pre-ordered the figure of Louise's wedding dress. Readers, please continue to follow up and support me, otherwise I won't have the money to make up the money. Anzhe flapped his wings, blowing up the surrounding wind, and landed steadily on the spot. He let the Quirks' black shadow cover his whole body, as if wearing a layer of armor, incarnated in the darkness of this rainy night, unscrupulously releasing his middle 2 soul. Tokiyami Yinta and a few quieter classmates in the class came here, and Tokiyami accepted Anzhe's teaching. The strength has skyrocketed. Understood. J. 111 Shape of Ice. Super Freezing Frost Arrow, the Yamamoto ape who was shot. The third update, please subscribe. From the central area to the emergency exit, the design is a high ground, with 2 running stairs between them, and a rest platform in the middle. In this place, the line of sight is almost at the same level as the mountain area, and the terrain is not too high or too far below. The shape of ice. Anzhe clasped his hands together, created magic power, and wrapped his hands in an extremely bright icy light blue light. The magic power contained in it is very huge. Immediately afterwards, the hands were vertically separated in opposite directions, accompanied by a freezing sound of ice condensation. An ice bow made of ice was created with magic power. Super freezing frostbolt. At the same time, the majestic magic power erupted again, creating an ice arrow made of ice crystals all over its body. Knocking the arrow, opening the bow, and full bow are all unnecessary. Thoughts are born from the heart, and the ice bow and ice arrow made by magic will be adjusted by Anzhe's consciousness. All he needs is to aim, and it just so happens that his eyesight is the best at aiming. Anzhe looked up at the twilight and looked down again. Aizawa Shota was surrounded by many villains alone, shuttled back and forth in the battlefield, and defeated one villains after another with his own physical fitness and strength. The movement is slow. However, Anzhe was keenly aware that Aizawa Shota's movements gradually became slow, and his physical strength was already a little weak. Anzhe took a deep breath. The cold touch, like a cloud of air conditioning, made him feel very calm. He wasn't targeting Tamura Shigaraki, but Ape Yamamoto, apparently the leader of the League of Villains invasion. Strange to say, it is impossible for Anzhe, who has excellent eyesight, not to see the scene where Ape Yamamoto beat Tamura Shigaraki, and Ape Yamamoto kept giving orders. It seems that Ape Yamamoto is the main planner of this invasion of heroes, and Tamura Shigaraki is just an unknown little brother, curled up and inconspicuous. In the end, what happened? Anzhe didn't understand what AFO did, and obviously regarded Tamura Shigaraki as an outcast, and this change happened after he broke into the headquarters of the League of Villains. Forget it, who cares? I let you run away last time, but I won't let you run away again this time. Anzhe shook his head and didn't think about it anymore. He looked intently and aimed at the Yamamoto monkey. The last time he was rescued by Kurogiri, he has always held a grudge. It happened that Aizawa Shota also approached Yamamoto Ape in an attempt to solve him as the leader. Ape Yamamoto also pulled on Tamura Shigaraki and seemed to block him like a shield. In short, the actions between the three of them were all predicted by Anzhe. Anzhe focused all his consciousness on his eyes, and murmured silently to 3 times. What he didn't know was that the corner of his mouth subconsciously turned into a smile. It was a cold, sadistic, bloodthirsty smile. Boom. The terrifying fluctuations spread out with the trembling of the ice bow, and the ice arrows gathered by the majestic magic power burst out suddenly, setting off a gust of wind that swept across the sky. The huge wind pressure is getting stronger and stronger, and the icy chill exuding from a little bit of cold light even condenses the surrounding air and draws a straight line. Then, there was a scream that resounded throughout the USJ venue, coming from the mouth of the target Yamamoto monkey. Tisk, didn't you kill him? It's a pity, but he was half disabled. Anzhe clicked his lips in displeasure. His super frozen ice arrow did hit, but Yamamoto Ape exploded with amazing potential at the moment of life and death, allowing his body to sideways avoid half of the attack. And the other half of the body has been frozen. Central pool area. A person with only one skill cannot become a hero. Speaking from Aizawa Shota's own mouth, he knows that he is a professional hero, but he can't have 2 obvious shortcomings. For example, his quirks are very disadvantaged in group battles, so he specially trained a period of training to deal with plural villains. That's why he was able to freely enter and exit among the villains like villains, solving one villains after another. However, even so, the number of villains is too much. Even if it can be solved with 1 face-to-face meeting, 20 face-to-face meetings will become too much. Not to mention that these villains are all eliminated by his quirks anyway, no matter what the quirks are. Those villains who have eliminated quirks or cannot eliminate quirks have surprisingly good physical fitness. 10 seconds, 6 seconds. In 4 seconds, 4 face-to-face, and 4 villains fell to the ground. Aizawa Shota is counting how many seconds his eyes can last at most. He can't use quirks and must let his eyes rest. Time is running out, and there are countless villains around. He looks at the Yamamoto monkey standing leisurely, and decides to take a risk. The boss. Aizawa Shota rushed over to launch a surprise attack, and the cloth belt around his neck flew out to attack together. However, Ape Yamamoto, the leader of the villains, casually threw a silver-haired young man whose whole body was clawed by a hand model behind him, and threw it over unreasonably. Aizawa Shota was startled, and the cloth bag turned to the silver-haired young man, but due to the unexpected situation, he couldn't find the right line of sight and didn't eliminate quirks. Moreover, due to lack of physical strength, the process of wrapping the cloth bag was negligent. One hand of the silver-haired youth broke free from the wrapping and grabbed Aizawa Shota's elbow when he was attacking. This silver-haired young man is Tamura Shigaraki, and his quirks are Honkai. Objects touched by 5 fingers will gradually collapse, and the scope of damage will become larger and larger. Theoretically, it is not online, so it is self-evident who caused the destruction of the heroic gate. However, that didn't wait until Tamura Shigaraki used quirks, turning Aizawa Shota's arm into something shattered. He had a premonition of danger, the ice blue flickering cold light in his sight. The most important thing is crisis. Tamura Shigaraki gave up the attack directly, broke free from the bag twice, and rolled directly to the side, leaving Yamamoto Ape and Aizawa Shota looking at each other. Sigenmu, how dare you? Yamamoto's angry words stopped abruptly, because he also felt a great crisis, subconsciously raised his arms, and his body seemed to avoid sideways. But it's too late. In the next moment, his raised arm, together with the lower half of his body, was easily pierced by an ice arrow and condensed. In a blink of an eye, it was frozen into half an ice sculpture. Boom! Ape Yamamoto was knocked flying by the impact and fell to the ground. Fortunately, he withdrew to the side of his body, otherwise he would definitely have lost his life. But the pain, a shocking pain that can't be described in words, shakes the soul and lingers around the ears. Ah 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 ah. The eyes were all white, the pain swept like a tsunami, and the screams ran through the entire USJ venue. Come and protect me. Come and protect me. Amid the panicked shouts of Aizawa Shota, the surrounding villains did not go to surround Aizawa Shota, but rushed over to protect Aizawa Shota. And Aizawa Shota was also stunned in astonishment, missing the opportunity to make up the knife. Looking at the villains gathered in front of him, he had to step back temporarily. His purpose is to hold off the villains and wait for reinforcements. Although it is a pity, it is definitely enough to delay for a long time. But he had a question in his mind: who supported this frostbolt? 112 Blackening of Tamura Shigaraki. The first update, please subscribe. Boom boom boom. The sound of shoes stepping on the stairs was dense and loud, and this sound reached the ears of villains, revealing a depressive and tense atmosphere. Wizard Anzhe, is he the one who released the frostbolt just now? Everyone looked at Anzhe in horror. The leader's body was frozen, and the piercing screams made them, as villains, tremble inwardly. It would be a perfect match if there was a BGM featuring superstars in troubled times or gambling kings. Anzhe watched himself become visible, sighed softly, and then walked to Aizawa Shota's side. Anzhe, did you make that ice arrow? Aizawa Shota's eyes widened, his heart was full of shock, and he couldn't understand that this was his student, and he was also a professional hero. Since his debut, and 550, Jay has rarely been interviewed by the media. Although he has shown his strength but not often, it can be said to add a layer of mystery, making all ordinary people want to know what his endless moves are. Quirks. Likewise, Aizawa Shota is part of an army of curious people, in the flames of the license exam, and now in the ice. Of course I did it. Otherwise, Mr. Aizawa, the situation you just had just now is very dangerous. Anzhe smiled, and saw Aizawa Shota's question. Also, I just said it on the bus, my ability it's magic. By the way, Anzhe exchanged the magic of Dragon Slayer in the sky, and the magic of Troya healed his sense of balance, so he can take a bus or other transportation. Reading the comments, some readers asked if Dragon Slayer magic is not a vehicle that faints. Xiao Wuyu read it carefully, and then explain it again. When Anzhe said this, his voice was not too loud, but it was just enough for everyone to hear clearly. On purpose, panic has appeared on the faces of some villains around. After all, they are just miscellaneous fish in dark corners. When they see professional heroes, they are thieves and policemen, so they are naturally flustered. Where's Kurogiri? Retreat. Retreat quickly. The person who spoke was Yamamoto Ape, whose body was half frozen. He was so stiff that only his lips could move. Although the super frozen ice arrow failed to penetrate and successfully killed the Yamamoto monkey, but this super freezing time cannot be lifted so easily. But All Might didn't show up. Kurogiri, who was behind Ape Yamamoto, came over. The incident happened so suddenly that he didn't have time to save Ape Yamamoto. Who cares about this? It's a big deal to plan the invasion next time. If I don't leave now, I will die here. Faced with Kurogiri's hesitation, feeling the loss of vitality in his frozen state, Yamamoto Ape directly spit on his face. He didn't care so much about his thoughts. If the invasion failed, he would fail. If he stayed here, he would definitely die, but if he went back and knelt down and begged for mercy, he might be given another chance. Moreover, the Nomu they brought over to test the situation of All Might has not been released yet, and now they are retreating, and Xiangying does not know why they invaded Xiangying. You stinky orangutan, can you shut your mouth? However, a pair of big feet stepped on Yamamoto Ape's face mercilessly, making the latter even more injured and completely speechless. This guy is exactly Tamura Shigaraki, who rolled sideways earlier. His body was trembling crazily at this moment, trembling with excitement. He finally waited for this opportunity. Kurogiri, let me release Nomu. At this moment, Tamura Shigaraki's tone suddenly became calm, extremely calm, icy cold, as if he would not give any rejection. Wait, Nomu is here to test All Might, but All Might hasn't appeared yet. As Ape Yamamoto said, we don't need to release Nomu and just retreat. Kurogiri was sweating violently, and the action of Tamura Shigaraki stepping on Yamamoto's face made his heart skip a beat. He can be regarded as watching Tamura Shigaraki grow up, and he naturally knows how dark the child's heart is, like a collection of malicious people. The moment Kurogiri's words fell, the air fell silent, deathly still. Kurogiri you. Tamura Shigaraki's body trembled more and more. This time it was very irritable and anxious trembling, and he really wanted to scratch his neck, but the experience during this period made him learn tolerance and restraint. Stop talking nonsense. Tamura Shigaraki stretched out his hand suddenly, and when Kurogiri didn't expect no resistance, one of his hands rested on the metal neck guard that was not covered by the mist around Kurogiri's neck. That is the only weakness of Kurogiri. Other parts of the body are immune to attack, and for Tamura Shigaraki, Kurogiri also accompanied him to grow up, so how could Tamura Shigaraki not know Kurogiri's weakness? It is precisely because Kurogiri is the person who accompanied him, so when he was treated indifferently and ignored by the teacher he respected, Kurogiri did not choose to help, which made him hate him even more. Ha ha ha, that's it. But he didn't want to be an abandoned son, and he hated everything. He wanted revenge, including the teacher who had saved him and regarded him as his heir disciple. Speaking of which, he would also like to thank Anzhe. If he hadn't turned Ape Yamamoto into this frozen form, how could he have had the opportunity to seek power and usurp the throne? 0.8 If it wasn't for Anzhe, how could he have been killed by his own in that bar? Teacher abandoned. Tamura Shigaraki wants to kill Kurogiri very much right now, but he can't. Kurogiri's portal quirks is extremely good, and it is the only way to retreat now. P.S. In my English fan fiction, Tamura Shigaraki is almost pure waste, with no effect. Indeed, in the early days of the manga, Tamura Shigaraki was just a giant baby without the charm of the villain, and fan fiction would not give him time to grow up normally. So I want to let Tamura Shigaraki grow up early in this way, which will be more interesting. I can only do it obediently. Use quirks, a black vortex appears, and a huge figure breaks free from it. Release Nomu, please. Kurogiri feels more and more that the current Tamura Shigaraki is quite terrifying, not to mention that his life is still in the opponent's hands. I have become an outcast myself. Anyway, he was the one who abandoned himself first, so it was, once. Otherwise, you will be crushed by me. He is not stupid, the teacher's attitude towards him is already obvious. Seeing this, Tamura Shigaraki laughed crazily and turned to look at Anzhe. PS2. The first update, please subscribe. Understood. Tamura Shigaraki smiled kindly, that devilish smiling face that was scarier than crying, with a pair of narrowed eyes, exuding a cruel light. 113 Nomu appears, Aizawa Shota is seriously injured. Second update, please subscribe. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 287. 72. 96. Oh my god, what happened to the League of Villains? How did Tamura Shigaraki become like this? Anzhe and Aizawa Shota stood side by side, and did not take action to solve the villains, but watched a good drama of the year. Tamura Shigaraki usurps the throne to bring down Saru Yamamoto and threatens Kurogiri's life in order to gain military power. When did Tamura Shigaraki become so aggressive? While Anzhe was deeply puzzled, students scattered by the portal came from all directions one after another: Bakugo Katsuki, Shoto Todoroki, Green Valley Izuku, Baruj, Jiro Kyoka. After they dealt with the villains in their respective areas, they all remembered that Aizawa Shota went to the central pool area alone to confront many villains he did not choose to escape but came to support. Aizawa-sensei, it's great that you're fine. Is everyone okay? Aizawa Shota looked at the students around with relief, and Hero S. number 13, although for some reason there was a girl with pink hair in a maid outfit. In short, no one suffered an accident, and they all gathered together intact, which really made him feel relieved. I'm going to beat those guys hard, and that Black Garden boy. The other party said that the 09 basis for killing All Might was a guy named Nomu. Bakugo Katsuki couldn't wait to rush to villains. Shoto Todoroki shared the information he got from freezing and tortured villains, and other students in Class A also used their own quirks to solve the remaining problems in the Central Area League of Villains staff. All of a sudden, the League of Villains side continued to be defeated, and gradually surrounded by villains who fell to the ground, leaving only Tamura Shigaraki, Kurogiri, Yamamoto Ape and a few young people. Everyone, including Aizawa Shota, has a look of sure victory, except Anzhe, who knows that the biggest crisis has not yet arrived. Suddenly, the weird Kurogiri appeared, and a huge figure emerged from it. It was a monster with a black body and a big, strong man like a dinosaur. Sub-quest trigger. Defeat Nomu, task reward, A-level lucky draw once. Close black lens bracket. Nomu appears. Anzhe murmured in a low voice, listening to the cold mechanical sound of the system, the pressure swept along with it. Don't look at the current aggressiveness of the people in Class A, but facing Nomu's disparity in strength, they will be defeated in an instant. So, what about All Might? Why hasn't he arrived yet? In fact, when Yamamoto Saru and Kurogiri planned to invade the heroes, not only the existence of Anzhe, which was considered in detail, was difficult to solve, so the 4 Ninja Turtles were sent. They also considered that Hero's other professions in heroes would quickly support them and make their invasion fail. For this reason, when they launched the invasion, they specially divided a group of young people. Now those minions should be attacking heroes, although they should be resolved soon, but it is enough to attract Heroes to hold heroes down. The problem is that League of Villains never expected that All Might would run out of transformation time in the morning and be unable to come to USJ for class. I was attracted by those little guys, and was delayed for a while, and I didn't have the first time to come to support. Forget it, I just want to try Nomu, whether I have reached this pseudo-ceiling level strength. Anzhe shook his head and stopped thinking about why All Might didn't come. Nomu did bring him pressure, but at most it was just a little troublesome. The branch tasks released by the system are based on the general strength of the villains, and the corresponding rewards are obtained. So when it comes to net acquisition systems, it's completely different. The reward for defeating Nomu is just an A-level lottery draw, and even the system judges that Nomu is just a villains that brings him troublesome levels. I'll deal with that new villains. Wait, Aizawa-sensei. Anzhe exclaimed, but did not stop Aizawa Shota from rushing towards Nomu, and immediately blessed himself with auxiliary magic to save Aizawa Shota. On the other side, Nomu originally obeyed Black Mist's orders, but Black Mist's neck was still in the hands of Tamura Shigaraki, and the control of Nomu came to Tamura Shigaraki's hands exactly the same. Under his command, Nomu rushed out, like a black lightning bolt, with great momentum. Aizawa Shota's pupils widened, and he didn't expect that the newly appeared villains would come in front of him in the blink of an eye. Eliminate. Aizawa Shota manipulated the cloth bag around his neck and stepped forward, staring at the creepy face with the brain exposed in the air, eliminating his quirks. Bump. Goggles and blood flew in the air. Aizawa Shota also understood what the exclamation from Anzhe behind him meant. The battle is on the verge of breaking out. Ms. Aizawa. Even though he eliminated the opponent's quirks, the opponent just waved his hand with physical strength, causing his blood to splatter, all the cloth bags burst, and he was seriously injured. Anzhe stepped forward and faced Nomu. Aizawa Shota's flying body stagnated suddenly, and then he was thrown backwards again. Seeing the scene where Aizawa Shota flew out, Tamura Shigaraki laughed ferociously. P.S. The second update, please subscribe. Style of ice. Crampons. Teacher number 13, pick up Mr. Aizawa. Anzhe yelled without turning his head. The direction of his throw was naturally not littering, and he continued, I will deal with this guy named Nomu. Teacher number 13, please protect him. My classmates and Mr. Aizawa. Aizawa Shota's strength in the professional hero S should be regarded as the underdog of the first echelon, and Nomu is undoubtedly a pseudo-ceiling level with half a foot out of the first echelon. The weapon transformed to fight against All Might. Nomu, please appreciate it now, use your body and life. At this time, 2 ice chains with crampons quickly flew out from behind. The crampons were originally a magic to fix the position and let oneself fly over, but under the use of Anzhe, it was used to save people. Everyone exclaimed, and their faces became extremely ugly, especially because they couldn't see Nomu's movements at all, the gap was too big. Between the pseudo-ceiling level and the 153rd echelon, there is an insurmountable gap related to ignorance and quirks. Power. Overwhelming power. It's like breaking a twig, pure power. Nomu also roared angrily. Although he had no intelligence, he instinctively knew the person in front of him, snatched and saved his prey. 114 Nomu vs Anzhe, Ice Form, Demon King's Forearm. The third update, please subscribe. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 224. 56. 75. Can Anzhe win the villains? Jiro Kyoka, a childhood sweetheart, is pinching the hem of his clothes at this moment, very nervous. Even though she thought Anzhe was very strong, Tamura Shigaraki laughed and said that this villain's named Nomu is a weapon transformed to fight against All Might. For a while, other students and teacher number 13 were unable to answer Jiro Kyoka's question, and a dignified atmosphere permeated everyone's heart. Speaking of which, let Anzhe, a student, deal with Nomu. Although he is already a professional hero, as a teacher, number 13 still feels very ashamed. But she also knew that going forward would be a disservice, even though her quirk's black hole could theoretically absorb and kill Nomu directly. Master, he will definitely, absolutely win. At this time, the Baruk in the maid's costume, the sonorous and powerful voice, and the calm expression made everyone slightly startled. Either because of what she calls Anzhe, or because of her confidence in Anzhe, or both. The 2 armies confronted each other, and Admiral singled out. Now the students of Class A of Hero S in League of Villains can use these 8 words to describe which side Admiral wins will determine the final victory of which city. Boom. A huge stampede happened, the ground cracked and splashed, and the irrational Nomu rushed to Anzhe first. In an instant, Nomu appeared in front of Anzhe at a speed that ordinary people could not observe with the naked eye, with his arms raised high. One punch. Collapse. Accompanied by the gust of wind blowing from the sky, there was a loud noise, and the blowing wind caused everyone around to be unable to open their eyes. Crack, crack, crack. The fist wind subsided, and everyone who barely opened their eyes, which were a little bit stinging, had no time to be frightened by Nomu's strength, and an even more shocking scene came into their eyes. Countless cold ice shattered, and ice crystal particles scattered around like rain. And Anzhe, a thin figure who doesn't look very strong, actually easily caught Nomu's terrifying punch with one hand. No, if you look closely, Anze's one hand is covered with a layer of ice. Form of ice. Demon Lord's forearm armor. Use ice modeling magic to create ice front wrist armor to strengthen the arm's strength. There is also the power of the steel wrist of the Sky Dragon Slayer magic, and 2 power enhancing magics, allowing Anzhe to receive a pseudo-ceiling level attack. The Iron Fist of the Fire Dragon. Tightly hold Nomu's fists so that they restrain each other and cannot break free from each other, while Anze's other hand ignited a terrifying wave of flames. Boom. With one punch, the attack of blazing catharsis hit Nomu's chest without any defense. Not only that, the magic power of the flame also spread throughout Nomu's body, scorching it into a fireball. Anzhe let go of the hand of the ice front armor, jumped away and frowned slightly. This punch of his made everyone around feel horrified, but when Nomu twisted his body violently and fanned the flames on his body, everyone found that there was no burn mark left on his body. How can it be? Can this attack not hurt this villain's named Nomu? It's terrible. Suddenly, a sense of despair enveloped everyone's hearts. Anzhe also felt the atmosphere in the rear, and said directly without concealing, don't be discouraged, this guy named Nomu has plural quirks, shock absorption, and super regeneration, he is not uninjured. The Iron Fist of the Fire Dragon, the attack of the fist is absorbed by the impact, and the burning of the flame is instantly healed by super regeneration. Knowing the benefits of the plot has come out, Anzhe doesn't care if they doubt how he knows. In short, his words are like a tranquilizer, dissipating the atmosphere of despair. How would he know? Nomu's quirks. On the other side, Tamura Shigaraki, who heard Anze's words, opened his eyes wide and scratched his neck irritably, leaving bloodstains on his neck. He wants to kill Anzhe. Nomu is his only reliance. Tamura Shigaraki hates unplanned things very much. He plans to use Nomu to ravage and kill the person he hates, Anzhe, to death. But now it seems that Anze's strength is so strong that Nomu can't defeat him for a while. Never mind. Nomu, attack this guy like crazy. Under the command of Tamura Shigaraki, who was really helpless, Nomu stared at Anzhe again with his eyes rolled, his fists clenched suddenly, and he rushed forward again. Give me a break, because of the size. Anzhe narrowed his eyes, and there was an icy light emitting from a thin slit, and he was also very troubled by Nomu. Because judging from the fight just now, he didn't have any good means to defeat Nomu. Shock absorption plus super regeneration, the combination of these two quirks is really the best tank. Although he can always create the front wrist armor of the Demon King to collide with Nomu again and again, but in the end he is definitely the one who falls behind. Physical strength, magical power, and spirit, in comparison, Nomu is just an irrational and tireless weapon. So the way Anzhe decides to break the game is, enter the system space. For a moment, time freezes, everything fades, as always, every time I feel. In the azure space, Anzhe's thinking alone accelerated tens of thousands of times. Anzhe looked at Nomu, who was close at hand, twisted his body, and yawned lazily, leisurely. He looked at the bottom right of the screen, and his well-known points had reached more than 35,000, which hadn't changed much from when the school started. After all, during the period of entering Yingying, there is no chance to increase his popularity. In short, he needs to spend famous points to exchange for magic, so as to solve the Nomu in front of him. Let's draw the lottery first. Anzhe murmured, defeating the 4 ninja turtles also won a chance to draw a B-level lottery, it just happened to be used here by the way. Use the B-level lottery. In the line of sight, the figures of many wizards turned. Start the B-level lottery draw. Congratulations to the host Liao Zhao for winning the magic, charm, of, Bola, in the lottery. Close black lens bracket. Charm magic that attracts the mind of the other party, is ineffective for those who know the truth. Close black lens bracket. At the same time, after the lottery draw is over. Paula's experience in using charm, Anzhe received it in an instant. Wave, the first villain to appear in the fairy tale anime. It is purely to lead Lucy to meet Natsu, one of the supporting roles who is as small as a speck of dust. And this charm magic is only effective for the opposite S**X. Simply put, it is used to illegally catch girls. Speaking of which, Anzhe had a bold idea in his heart, cough cough. Anzhe shook his head, not to let those whimsical thoughts disturb his current thoughts. This time the B-level lottery draw is a bit unlucky, and this magic is useless for the time being. Then, let's exchange the well-known points for magic. 115 Exchange Thunder Dragon Slayer Magic, Thunder Flame Dragon Mode. 4th update, please subscribe. Anzhe had a conjecture long ago, he fused the magic power of flame and thunder by himself, and displayed the Thunder Flame Dragon Mode. Since this conjecture was first used in the license exam, until now, he has been developing and trying to create it, and he has figured out a feasible method. However, Anzhe found a shackle, that is, the level of the thunder element converted from magic power in his body is too low. The flame on one side is the flame magic power of the Dragon Slayer, and it is okay to add another low-level thunder magic power that can be used as an auxiliary reinforcement. But Lei Yanlong mode is a sublimated posture, a combination of flame and thunder magic power and a higher level of existence. Corresponding to the flame magic power of the dragon, what is needed is the same, the thunder power of the dragon. System, exchange for Thunder Dragon Slayer magic. Anzhe's eyes were burning, now is the time to break through the shackles, whether he can really figure out the way to kill the dragon on his own. Consume 3000 well-known points, confirm. Confirm. At the bottom right of the retina screen, there are more than 32,000 well-known points left, and 30,001 famous points are deducted. The next moment, Anzhe only felt that there was an extra crystal in his body out of thin air, a magic crystal containing dense thunder magic power. Ah, Anzhe's eyes opened wide, and his pupils were dyed a bluish-white light like flames, which were unusually bright and dazzling under the cover of lightning. 663. He remembered the dangerous experience of being electrocuted while fishing before crossing. The fishing rod accidentally touched the electric pole, and the pain caused by the electric current at that moment made him let go of the fishing rod in the next moment and fell unconscious directly. Readers must pay attention to fishing in the future. I have experienced it personally. I am also really lucky. Opening square bracket. Different from the momentary electric pain that time, now the magic crystal of thunder magic power continues to transform the whole body with thunder elements in his body, and the pain continues. Soon, there was a loud crackling sound in the air. Anzhe's whole body was entwined with endless golden yellow lightning, like wearing a platinum armor with golden decorations. Then, consciousness fell into deep darkness. Another moment, because of the acceleration of tens of millions of times, Liu Yang's voice sounded in his mind. It sounded like some kind of switch was being turned on. Anzhe opened his eyes, already drenched in sweat. And the magic crystal of thunder magic power in his body was successfully implanted into majestic magic power after all. Anzhe took a deep breath, his chest rose and fell violently, and he could vaguely hear the sound of thunder. I really don't want to experience this kind of feeling again. Anzhe smiled wryly, the feeling of being electrocuted was too tormenting, but the result was also huge. Lei Yanlong mode, completed. Anzhe had an extremely excited look on his face, even if he didn't try, he was 100% confident in turning on the Lei Yanlong mode. I found a way to save famous spots. Not only has he mastered the Lei Yanlong mode, but he is also able to find out of the ways to exchange magic. You should know that although the basic template of a dragon slaying magic only needs 3000 famous points, any dragon slaying mode is no less than 10,000 famous points. After all, the enhanced strength brought about by the Dragon Slayer mode is exaggerated like a leap in sublimation. In fact, just look at Fairy Tail. Natsu has defeated powerful opponents several times, all by relying on the dragon slaying mode. Edilio mode, Lei Yanlong mode, Hai Yanlong mode, Yanlongwang mode. The first three types require 30,000 famous points, and the Flame Dragon King mode requires 100,000 famous points, which is the same as that required for a super magic. And now, at the cost of 3,000 fame points, Anzhe has mastered the Lei Yanlong mode that can only be exchanged for 30,000 fame points. Earn a fortune. Leaving the system space. Looking at Nomu, who was frozen in front of him again, Anzhe only felt that he could easily defeat him. In the next instant, the appearance of the world returns, and time flows again. Nomu, who rushed in front of Anzhe, immediately punched again. And Anzhe had a calm face, his eyes seemed to be surging with lightning, and he was ruthless and cold, looking at Nomu as if he was looking at a corpse. Thunder Dragon's collapsing fist. Anzhe opened his mouth calmly, and punched out again. At this moment, everyone around him noticed the difference, because there was an obvious crackling thunder. Z, boom. A storm more terrifying than the fist wind just now, even swept with a weak electric current, and the miscellaneous fish hired by Tamura Shigaraki were instantly blown away. Some of the lucky ones were just crippled, and those with their heads on the ground were a bit miserable. The same is true for everyone in Class A, who were blown away by the wind, but fortunately, the Quirks black hole of No. 13 Hero S sucked them back without injury. After the storm, in a scene that made everyone even more horrified, Nomu's figure was blown away, and a large part of his chest was sunken. Hiss. Tamura Shigaraki and Kurogiri took a deep breath at the same time, their eyes filled with shock and disbelief. It's so weak, but this tank-shaped Nomu is very suitable as a sandbag. The corner of Anzhe's mouth hooked into a smile, the magic power in his body had accumulated to a critical point, and he needed to vent it out, and he also wanted to use the Lei Yanlong mode to feel it. In fact, the Thunder Dragon's bending fist just now has already integrated the magic power of Shaolei. Nomu, who was originally of equal strength, naturally tipped his balance and was blown away by him. Let me show you. Anzhe directly took off the clothes on his body, revealing a muscular body covered by a thin body. In fact, it was just the sequelae of Gray's experience, which made him want to take off his clothes. The brachioradialis and the flexor carpi brachii of his exposed upper body are stacked, with beautiful blue veins winding on it, with graceful lines. Coupled with his handsome face, the lightning pupils that seem to be able to suck people in, and the tall figure that stands up to villains, most of the girls in Class A behind can't help feeling. This is the reason why a strong and excellent man never lacks a woman by his side. Their own conditions and the male hormones they emit will make women approach them voluntarily. Lei Yanlong mode. Anzhe's magical power grew wildly, and he vented and released it to his surroundings. Thunder and fire are probably the combination of the two most violent natural forces in the world. When the two are combined, the power of Median and the dazzling flame instantly illuminate the entire USJ venue. Everyone around couldn't open their eyes for a long time, when they slowly opened their eyes and looked at the battlefield again. Transfixed. The eyes are dull. Deep in their eyes, they seem to see a dragon bathed in thunder and fire in their minds. It was so lifelike that it made people feel terrified. The sky, also combined with the magic power of the two, together with the setting sun and dusk, rendered a dark red color like the afterglow of a tragic battle, just like the end of the world. And this end is destined to belong to Nomu and League of Villains. 116 Thunder Dragon Fang Tianji, Kill Nomu. The first update, please subscribe. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 767. 192. 256. Everyone rubbed their eyes vigorously, and it was only in the twilight that they could see Anzhe's figure of a dragon that looked like a fake, but not a fake. His bronze-colored skin exudes a shimmering brilliance, and his whole body is covered by countless streams of light and flames that look like a dragon's body, revealing the might of a dragon. As expected of Lei Yanlong mode, I should be regarded as the top of the pseudo-ceiling level in terms of combat power. Anzhe clenched his fists tightly, feeling the abundant magic power and powerful power in his body, but unfortunately, he has not yet mastered a dragon-slaying mystery. After all, any dragon slayer profound truth also needs 10,000 famous points as a base, and he was a bit reluctant to exchange it. Boom. At this time, Nomu, who was knocked into the air by Anzhe, stood up, and the big hole in his chest recovered. Again, like a warrior who was ready to die, he rushed towards Anzhe. He is a mindless dead creature, at the behest of Tamura Shigaraki, attacking like crazy. Sandbag Nomu, I just tested the power of this magic with you. The corners of Anzhe's mouth rose slowly, and the momentum on his body also continued to rise, and the flames on his body wrapped around his whole body in circles. Lei Yanlong's roar. The fists collide to gather magic power, and the magic circle that symbolizes the fusion of the dual attributes of thunder and fire appears. Anzhe opened his mouth wide, and the bulging mouth was filled with extremely violent magic power, which was different from the roaring, thunder, flame of the fire dragon, with thunder light in the flame waves. The next moment, a huge thunder flame light wave spewed out from his mouth, full of destructive power. Even everyone in the distance, their faces were frightened by this power, and their faces turned pale. Thunder Ocean. In an instant, the raging thunder flames enveloped Nomu's entire body. And Tamura Shigaraki and Kurogiri, who were further behind Nomu, ran away without saying a word, for fear of being affected by the aftermath of terror. Oh my god, the power is too terrifying. As Anzhe's strength so strong. Blind again. And behind Anzhe, there was the wailing of everyone in Class A, and they couldn't open their eyes again. So far, there have been countless times in a day. Finally, after the thunder lasted for a long time, it slowly dissipated. An even more horrifying scene came into view. The area in front of Anzhe was cleared up, or it could be said to be digging. It's like a laser strafing, and it's even more like a wave of flames. The ground was destroyed by the magic power to a depth of more than 1 meter, and even the deep surface was destroyed by the residual heat wave and was scorched black, melting into brown mottled magma, and the hot air was everywhere, distorting the air. The sound of swallowing saliva was clearly audible in the USJ venue, and everyone was surprised and speechless. As this, really the destruction that humans can cause. Even Kirishima Eijiro, who is enthusiastic, has also stuttered at the moment, unable to finish a sentence for a long time. He was all like this, and the others were even more unbearable. Those who couldn't speak could only nod their heads to express the disbelief in their hearts. At the same time, because the hot air was in contact with the outside air, the white mist rose, so thick that it was impossible to see Nomu, who was under Anzhe's attack. Now that the fog cleared, Nomu's figure appeared, very miserable. The golden thunder light kept flickering all over Nomu's body, and the electric current was still raging non-stop. The terrifying flames melted the surface of his skin like the ground, making it impossible to see a human figure at all, and there was even a stench of burning. V=_=#. It's so boring. Being a sandbag doesn't even warm me up enough. Anzhe clicked his lips in boredom, and killed Nomu with one move. In fact, he hasn't enjoyed fighting yet. However, he also terminated the Lei Yanlong mode afterwards, and his whole body returned to normal. After all, in this mode, the consumption of mana is also very terrifying. Then, the eyes turned to Tamura Shigaraki and Kurogiri, who were further back, and by the way, there is also Yamamoto Ape, who was dead on the ground. Immediately, being stared at, Tamura Shigaraki felt his whole body trembling crazily and sweating profusely. Failure again and again, in the hands of the same person. I'm afraid Anzhe's momentum will leave an indelible shadow in Tamura Shigaraki's heart. How did it become like this? Tamura Shigaraki also couldn't speak clearly, and the tone of his speech had been deformed. At this time, the result of suppressing the fear in his heart, he shouted hysterically, ordering Nomu, move me. In order not to sit still, he forcibly resisted the fear that Anzhe brought to him, but Nomu did not obey the order and remained motionless. Can't you see that? Your Nomu is overwhelmed, Anzhe said with a sneer, as if he was curious. He was carefully observing the whole process of Nomu's super regeneration. At this moment, Nomu's whole body is rapidly carbonized by the terrifying heat, and the super regenerating quirks allow it to regenerate at a high speed continuously, and the cycle repeats. 0. Seeking flowers. But his injury was so severe that Nomu had to focus all his energies on repairing his body and was unable to struggle at all. Forget it, a dead thing should look like a dead thing. Anzhe nodded slightly, as if he was no longer interested in Nomu. With the wing magic that had been maintained behind his back, his wings flapped, and his figure slowly flew into the sky, looking down. Thunder Dragon Slayer magic is not only for using the Thunder Flame Dragon mode, but also brings a lot of powerful thunder magic. Anzhe looked indifferent. He was above the sky, more like declaring that the whole sky was his domain of thunder. In an instant, the clouds in the sky were also illuminated by golden electric lights, golden clouds, space. Thunder Dragon Fangtian Halberd fell to the ground, and the huge magic energy impacted, producing terrifying power again. The entire USJ venue was enveloped in an enigmatic, silent silence. Not only that, Anzhe stretched out his hand to the sky, and a huge golden magic circle appeared in his hand. A brontosaurus shining like a dragon turned into a Fangtian painted halberd, slowly appeared from the magic circle, and was held in his hand. Congratulations to the host for completing the side mission and winning the A-level lottery once. Close black lens bracket. The sharp force even shook the space, directly piercing Nomu's chest, revealing a big hole that can be seen across. The golden flash once again made everyone unable to open their eyes. And at the second glance, Nomu's body broke through the hole, and he fell to the ground weakly, without any struggle. Boom. Thunder Dragon Fangtian Halberd. Call out. P.S. The first update, please subscribe. This huge gap made everyone who was already speechless even more speechless. The secondary injury caused by Thunder Dragon Fangtian Halberd completely exceeded the upper limit of impact absorption and super regeneration, and it was impossible to heal the injury. That Nomu, who looks invincible, has terrifying power, and has extremely strong physical defense. Now being defeated by Anzhe so easily, it's like trampling an insignificant bug to death. After a long time, when everyone opened their eyes, the first thing they saw was Anzhe floating in the sky like a supreme king. Nomu, the dead can't die anymore. Anzhe threw the Thunder Dragon Fangtian Halberd several meters long in his hand, and quickly threw it at Nomu. 1178 Yamamoto, who was remained. The USJ invasion is over. Second update, please subscribe. Kurogiri, take me away. Tamura Shigaraki's panicked voice broke the silence, and Nomu died like a murder, completely losing his courage and confidence. Not to mention the plan to test the situation of All Might, or the selfish plan to kill Anzhe, all of them have been ruined. And more importantly, if they don't retreat, I'm afraid they won't have a chance to leave. I'm making a portal. Kurogiri is also shuddering, using quirks as fast as possible, but the space is connected to the space on the other side, which takes a certain amount of time. However, Anzhe, like the god of death, has come down from the sky and wants to stop them. I'm back. At this moment, the emergency entrance of the USJ venue was knocked open, and Ida finally rushed over with reinforcements. Anzhe subconsciously turned his head and looked at Olmers, 380, Special, Bradkin, the head teacher of Class B of Hero S, Cement Division, Midnight, Marksman, Kongui Soul and other professional Hero S. Almost all the teaching staff of Hero S under the leadership of the Principal Mr. Principal, all came to support. They were careless, and they didn't expect to fall into the trick of villains to divert the tiger away from the mountain. According to Ida's description, the villains is very powerful, and it is completely impossible for the two teachers and a group of students to resist. It's all right, I have to ask why, because I'm here. The original classic quote from All Might's mouth, but his voice is getting smaller and smaller, because in their sight, there are fallen villains everywhere. Only Tamura Shigaraki and Kurogiri look shivering, with the fainting Yamamoto ape at their feet. In contrast, there are two teachers in Class A. Except for Aizawa Shota who looks miserable, the rest seem to be fine. Are the villains defeated? This idea made a group of professional Hero S look at each other in blank dismay. They didn't expect them to come here in such a hurry, and in the end they didn't even have the part to clean up the mess, and only left it to the work similar to finishing. At the same time, behind Tamura Shigaraki and Kurogiri, a dark vortex portal appeared. Because of the episode where All Might and others came, Anzhe was distracted, and the current situation was definitely enough for the three of Tamura Shigaraki to escape. However, Tamura Shigaraki took a deep breath, and spoke in a low voice, as if his frightened heart had been calmed down. He didn't run away immediately, but looked at All Might with burning eyes. They invaded USJ just to test All Might. Nomu died and the 4 frozen ninja turtles could be the victims of the plan, as long as they can succeed in the test. Yamamoto-Suru, you can complete the task assigned by your boss. Tamura Shigaraki grabbed the Yamamoto monkey on the ground. Half of his body was still frozen, weak and completely speechless, with only a pair of slightly open eyes. Saw Tamura Shigaraki's malicious, sadistic smile. The next moment, Tamura Shigaraki took out 2 golden potions in his hand. One bottle is the Quirks enhancement potion. The other bottle is the Quirks berserk elixir. What are you doing? Stop. Yamamoto's eyes widened suddenly, and he tried his best to spit out the last bit of strength, but he couldn't stop Tamura Shigaraki from stabbing 2 bottles of medicine into his body and injecting them all. The task of testing All Might is entrusted to you, use your life. After Tamura Shigaraki finished speaking cruelly, he turned around and jumped into the portal behind him. Kurogiri hesitated for a while, but there was no way to stop the matter so far, and he also entered the portal to leave. Let Tamura Shigaraki and Kurogiri run away again. Anzhe murmured in a low voice. He didn't have a good way to stop the portal at the moment, but he could catch up and enter the portal to pursue. But think about it or forget it. Moreover, a huge roar attracted everyone's attention. Ho 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 ho. Yamamoto raised his head to the sky and screamed. Half of his frozen body melted at some point, and his whole body had a gigantic Quirks-like change. Roar. There was another low growl. His eyes rolled white, his veins popped up all over his body, and saliva dripped from his mouth unconsciously. Obviously a state of losing his mind. Being tricked by Tamura Shigaraki to stay behind. Anzhe speculated that when he turned his head to look over just now, he naturally saw Tamura Shigaraki injecting 2 bottles of medicine into the body of the irresistible Yamamoto ape. When destroying the evolutionary stronghold, the appearance of Yamamoto ape who was greedy for life and afraid of death did not look like a person who would take the initiative to cut off his heir. There is also Tamura Shigaraki, who lacks love since childhood, has an extremely twisted and perverted heart, and has a super revengeful personality. I'll deal with him. All Might shouted loudly, and his figure rushed to the front of Yamamoto ape in an instant. He was full of guilt, annoyance, and self-blame towards himself. My students are in danger of being invaded by villains in the school, but the most important thing is that I cannot attend classes normally. Fortunately, the invading villains is completely defeated in the current situation. But this anger All Might needs to vent, and the remaining villains Yamamoto ape can just give him vent. Forget it, I'll leave it to you, All Might. Anzhe shook his head. It just so happened that the mana consumption in his body was also huge, and he really wanted to rest. Immediately afterwards, All Might punched out, and Yamamoto, who lost his mind, also lowered his fists. Exclamation mark. Clash of fists. The concussive shock wave scattered around, and Yamamoto-Aru blocked All Might's blow. Anzhe was slightly surprised. He didn't expect the increase brought by the Quirks strengthening potion to be able to increase to such a degree. Texas smash. But the ending was already doomed. All Might concentrated all his strength in one punch, and swung it out again. Boom. A huge figure flew upside down, even piercing through the sky. Yamamoto turned into a shooting star. And the wind pressure generated by All Might punching with all his strength destroyed the site of USJ even more. Cracks were formed on the ground like an earthquake, and the pool in the central area was also destroyed immediately. Sure enough, even the injured All Might can't be underestimated with a full punch. This is also the first time Anzhe has seen All Might attack at full strength. I have to say that the power of this punching style, at least with the help of 2 magics that enhance his arm strength, is still difficult to achieve. In short, the USJ villains invasion incident has come to an end. All the professional Hero S who came here had only finishing work, catching all the defeated miscellaneous fish villains. There are also 4 frozen ninja turtles. Interrogation from their mouths revealed that they were an organization called League of Villains, and that the injections into the body of Yamamoto ape were 2 different Quirks medicines. Fortify and Berserk, completely drained the vitality of Yamamoto Ape, and died when he was knocked into the air by All Might. What everyone doesn't know is that this League of Villains attack is not the end, but just the beginning of the operation. 118 The Meeting of Heroes and Heroes, Undercurrents Surge. The third update, please subscribe. The Cradle of Hero SUA. High School is under attack, the villains who claims to be League of Villains, and shows the terrifying strength. Each one is enough to ignite the heat of the topic and become a big event that attracts attention. Because of this unexpected accident, other courses that were originally scheduled to be stopped directly, UA. High School asked all students to go home and take a 2-day vacation. And those reporters who gathered around the school gate in the morning were even more moved by the news, and they didn't even wait for the next day, so they started to add fuel and vinegar to the emergency report. All of a sudden, UA. High School was on the cusp. At this time, in a conference room at UA. High School, all the teaching staff of Yingying gathered. Let's have a meeting next to discuss the League of Villains, attack on USJ. The speaker was a young man in a standard suit who was once in charge of investigating the evolutionary organization and was now sent to investigate the League of Villains. Investigator, Class Police Department, Tsukauchi Naomasa. He flipped through the papers he collected and investigated, turned to a piece of paper, and said, there are 3 leaders. The first one is Yamamoto Ape, the leader of one of the evolutionary strongholds, and now it seems that the evolutionary and this new name the League of Villains organization is implicated. The second is Tamura Shigaraki. Quirks is tentatively designated as Honkai, which can shatter everything it touches. The destruction of your school's gate should be caused by him. 09. Then, Tsukauchi Naomasa turned to the next sheet of paper, continued, we searched the quirks of registered people in the 20 to 30 range, and found no matching bids. This means that Tamura Shigaraki is in the state of a black household, and whether his real name is this is also in an unknown state. The last one is named Kurogiri. Quirks is tentatively designated as a portal. It is also unregistered and has no household registration. It seems that this name is also a pseudonym, and its real name is unknown. After introducing the 3 leaders of the League of Villains, Tsukauchi Naomasa took out another piece of paper and showed it to the heroic faculty and staff. In the USJ grounds, a total of 72 villains were arrested. Unfortunately, we did not find out anything. They are all little people hiding in the corners of the deep ditch in the city. They came together, but they were just arrested. It's driven by profit. The mouse-like principal Mr. Principal lowered his head in deep thought, and said, is that so? It seems quite troublesome. In the modern age where Hero S is saturated, it is possible to guide the suppressed malicious people to burst out. The Alliance is a very important organization. Not simple. 11. It's more than simple, that creature named Nomu. All Might said in a dignified tone with his hands on his chin in a thin form. At the end of the day, under the leadership of Mr. Principal, the students were asked in detail about the whole process of the incident. The villains, which is said to have super regeneration and shock absorption, the combination of 2 almost perverted quirks, is strong enough to compare with All Might's physical fitness. Fortunately, the wizard Anzhe who was present, as a professional hero S and a student, killed this Nomu. By the way, Nomu, a creature that is not considered a human, is not a violation of the law if it is killed. The other professional hero S also nodded in agreement. The USJ venue is full of cameras. They also watched the horror of Nomu appearing and seriously injuring Aizawa Shota. But who would have thought that such a perverted villains would be tortured to death by Anzhe with a crushing gap? In short, we must first release an apology to the outside world to show our sincerity, and then. Mr. Principal clapped his hands and began to talk about public relations. And All Might bowed his head all over, didn't listen to a word, his mind was full of things about the League of Villains. Nomu, plural quirks, rich and irrational. This method reminded him of the AFO who was seriously injured by himself, the darkness that has been dormant for so long, now he can't help but disturb the peace of society. He, All Might, the 8th generation successor of OFA, will never allow this to happen. At the same time, in a place where the inside is a research room and the outside is a regular factory. A black vortex appeared and out of it came Tamura Shigaraki and Kurogiri, just the 2 of them. Some scientific researchers around looked over in surprise, and then they were indifferent and continued with their work. Kurogiri, go and report everything that happened in USJ to the teacher. Tamura Shigaraki sat on a chair casually, with a calm expression on his face, his eyes drifting away, wondering what he was thinking about. Understood. Kurogiri hesitated, but finally did it without a license. Even though Tamura Shigaraki had threatened his life, his calm words rang in his ears, and somehow, Kurogiri felt that the words had an irresistible quality to them. It was still an old TV, and at the other end of the TV was still a closed and dark room. Go down and stand by, Kurogiri. Yes, my lord. After listening to Kurogiri's narration of the whole process of invading heroes, there is no leak or concealment, including his own life being forcibly injected by Tamura Shigaraki into Yamamoto Ape with Quirks potion. The AFO, the real head of the League of Villains, sat up from his hospital bed. The numerous instruments and tubes inserted into his body were also shaking. The doctor next to him saw AFO's astonishment, and said, the child, Shigaraki, seems to have awakened and grown up, and his performance in this plan is a bit unbelievable. I didn't expect it either. AFO shook his head. Tamura Shigaraki's transformation, or growth, was very different from his previous one. In the conversation between the two, there was no blame on Tamura Shigaraki. For example, he snatched the leadership of Ape Yamamoto, released Nomu, and even left Ape Yamamoto behind. Appreciation on the contrary, because Tamura Shigaraki completed the plan. Test All Might. Under the blessing of Quirks' strengthening potion and Quirks' berserk potion, Yamamoto Ape fought All Might in the last stage of his life. It really made All Might use all its strength, and through special means such as remote live broadcast, the screen was broadcast on TV. The AFO, who is very familiar with All Might, can naturally judge from the picture formed in the brain that All Might has indeed become weaker. It seems that the OF450A in All Might has been passed on to the next generation. AFO bowed his head and pondered, firmly guessing this possibility, and at the same time, he had mixed emotions about the current Tamura Shigaraki. Originally at the same price, things with poor quality suddenly appreciated in value. At this moment, an emotion called regret appeared in AFO's heart, but it was quickly dispelled by him shaking his head. There is no need to regret it, since Tamura Shigaraki has shown his cultivable value, he should continue to cultivate. Anyway, everything is still under his control. Next, continue to show the world the name of their League of Villains. Speaking of Doctor, I'm sorry for the death of your subordinate. AFO changed the subject and said to the doctor beside him. It's okay, the value of Ape Yamamoto is almost exhausted, it is his life's honor to finally help to find out the situation of All Might. The doctor smiled indifferently, holding a bloody red liquid in his hand. After shaking the test tube twice, he continued. Sorcerer Anzhe, whose parents are deceased dragon-forming professional hero S. In this case, let the Scartooth Dragon God take over the stronghold of this city, and the stronghold has just been re-established. Then I'll leave it to you, Doctor. It's our job, and it's all for our cooperation. Haha, let's plunge this world into chaos again. AFO laughed loudly, echoing in the closed room. 119 Another A-level lottery draw, 3 auxiliary magics. 4th update, please subscribe. Water Day, Wednesday. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Anzhe opened her eyes on time and got up. Anzhe opened the doors and windows for ventilation, then went to the closet to get clothes. Today is the second day of the special holiday, let the students of Class A relax the tension of being attacked by villains. After simply putting on a set of sportswear, Anzhe turned around and went to the bathroom to wash up, and then the daily practice in the morning. The day's plan is in the morning, and the concentration of energy is also the most intensive in the morning. Then, at a fixed time, Baluj called to have breakfast. Milk, bread, eggs, etc. Anzhe picked up the phone and checked the time. It was only 8 o'clock in the morning. It's early. I slept all day yesterday to relieve the fatigue from using a lot of magic power and feel refreshed. But today it seems that there is nothing worth doing except for cultivation. His firm is now fully on the right track. The non-professional hero S staff, as well as the expansion of professional hero S carry out their work closely and orderly, and it seems to have become a well-known firm in the city. That is to say, no matter whether he, the director, will go or not, the operation of the firm will continue. It sounds a bit lonely. Anzhe shook his head. His director is a brand name. The higher the popularity, the more commissions the firm receives and the greater the firm's popularity. After all, it is not enough just to be famous in one city, he wants his firm to be ranked in the top 100 of Hero S firm bulletin board list in Japan. S-level lottery draw, it's really not easy. Anzhe sighed with emotion, the 2 conditions for completing the main task, one of which is to enter UA high school has been completed. The second is the ranking of the firm, nationwide, which is temporarily difficult to achieve. Speaking of which, other than exchanging famous points, the only way for him to obtain magic is to complete the task. But the problem is that side missions, as one's own strength becomes stronger, the difficulty of triggering becomes more and more difficult. Even villains at the level of Nomu can only provide A-level lottery task rewards. Come to the lottery draw, let's see what kind of magic can be drawn in this A-level lottery draw. Anzhe shook his head, and there is no need to be too impatient. After a while, it will be the Yingying Sports Festival, and after that it will be the workplace experience. That period of time will be a peak period, to enhance the reputation of your firm. Entering system space. In an instant, everything freezes and the soul leaves the body. Anzhe looked at the bottom right of the screen on the retina, and the well-known points have reached 40,000 points. The strength he showed when he defeated Nomu has already spread widely to the outside world. After all, he had been silent for a long time before he made another shot with all his strength, which seemed to have greatly increased his popularity. Use the A-level lottery. With Anzhe's order, use the A-level lottery obtained when defeating Nomu, complete the task. Open black lens bracket, start A-level lottery draw, close black lens bracket. Congratulations to the host for winning the magic, gravity suppression, of Kagura Mikazuki, in the lottery. Close black lens bracket. Congratulations to the host for winning the magic, red field, of Lisa, in the lottery. Close black lens bracket. Congratulations to the host for winning the Elfman Strauss, magic, partial acceptance beast wrist, in the lottery. Close black lens bracket. At the same time, after the draw is over, the experience of the 3 wizards using these 3 magics appeared in Anzhe's mind and slowly digested. It didn't take too long. After receiving it, Anzhe probed the 3 magics. Gravity suppression, gravity magic, increase the gravity of the air from above, suppress the opponent's body, and can also counteract the magic of the same gravity attribute. Close black lens bracket. Kagura Mikazuki, the strongest mage of the Mermaid's Heel in the female guild, is also the spiritual pillar of the guild. The strength is extremely powerful, and her physical skills are also second to none. It is better to say that she often defeats most wizards without using magic. Thanks to the resentment knife she holds called No Fear of Dacian, she can easily split a mountain by injecting resentment into the powerful destructive power of the blade. And the gravity magic she mastered, the free manipulation of magic power, is also a very good auxiliary control magic. It is a good help for Anzhe who does not lack attack methods now. Speaking of which, the 3 spells that Anzhe drew this time are all auxiliary spells. Red Field, slow magic, in a certain range of red field, maximize your own speed and minimize your opponent's speed and sense of speed. Close black lens bracket. Lisa, also known as Laser, is a member of the General Six. Later, when the 6 demon generals were defeated and imprisoned, and when the underworld was released, he was defeated by Gerald again, and then joined the Guild of the Sin of the Witch. The magic of the red field can be said to be Lisa's unique skill, and it is quite good in Anzhe's opinion. Maximizing his speed, coupled with the speed magic he has mastered, he can't even imagine how fast his speed will be. And to reduce the opponent's speed and sense of speed to the greatest extent, I am afraid that his opponent will not dare to imagine how fast his speed is. The time for special holidays is also over. This magic is actually similar to Anzhe's ice modeling magic and the Demon King's front wrist armor. One last magic. Classes as usual tomorrow. Partial reception beast wrist. Accept magic. Seal the power of the downed beast on the wrist, and use the magic of the monster's wrist to fight. Close black lens bracket. Leaving the system space. Receiving magic is mostly absorbed by the whole body, and the appearance temporarily becomes the appearance of the received object, but Anzhe actually doesn't want to become that kind of appearance. Next, Anzhe, who has nothing to do, still plans to visit the office for a day, and then go to Chairman Yaoyorozu want to discuss magic. The main thing is that he and Iba Green JCP, at the end of the fairy tale comics, are also the lucky, good Zhao ending of a married couple. P.S. The 4th update, please subscribe. Enhance the strength of the arm, and the 2 spells can also be superimposed. This time the A-level lottery draw is neither too good nor too bad, at least it can improve one's own strength. In this way, 1 day passed. His mantras related to manliness are also impressive. He is good at receiving magic, most of which are related to animals, and his strength is also very good. But the partial reception, only the arm part, was perfectly within his reception range C. Elfman Strauss, the most notable muscular man in Fairy Tale 120 dedicated Aizawa Shota, the upcoming Aizawa Sports Festival. The first update, please subscribe. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 70. 18. 23. Mid-April. The cherry blossoms have reached the end of flowering and withering. As the summer breeze blows, the pink cherry blossoms on the trees are falling. Anzhe walked into the hero school gate alone, this time without going to school with Jiro Kyoka. Walking into the class, hot words can be heard endlessly. Everyone in Class A seems to be in a good state of mind. After a short vacation adjustment, they got rid of the influence of being attacked by the League of Villains. At least that's what it looks like on the surface. There are a lot of negative reports on this incident in the news, all accusing Yingying of improper management and inadequate security, which put students in danger. Yeah, although I am worried about our safety, I feel very uncomfortable. Those media reporters don't know the specific situation at all. The other party has the quirks that are hard to guard against like portals. Teacher Aizawa and teacher number 13 are also working so hard. In the aftermath of the USJ invasion incident, all the pressure on the fishing boat fell on Yingying's side, which made everyone in Class A little bit aggrieved about it. At this time, a figure walked in from the door, attracting the attention of everyone in the classroom. It was Anzhe. Anzhe, you are so strong that you actually defeated that monster. Enthusiastic Kirishima Eijiro was the first to step forward and punch twice exaggeratedly, as if he was very yearning for Anzhe's strength. Without even thinking about it, the hum came from Bakugo Katsuki. He was still upset, but he had to admit in his heart that Anzhe was stronger than anyone imagined that day. There is also Shoto Todoroki, who is also staring at Anzhe. Both of these two have the character of not admitting defeat and especially competitive. Even though Anzhe's full strength is so terrifying, they are not easily discouraged. As for Green Valley Izuku, he took out his notebook again, and while murmuring, he recorded in detail the strength information Anzhe showed when he defeated Nomu. In addition to these 3, several girls in the class also looked at Anzhe, and did not talk enthusiastically like Kirishima Eijiro because of girls' reservedness. Good morning, Kyoka. Anzhe greeted her childhood sweetheart, came to her seat, and exchanged greetings with Yaoyorozu Momo, Asui Suyu and other students around her. Okay. It's almost time for class, everyone sits down, the class meeting is about to start. Anzhe glanced at the time, and he was doing his duty as the squad leader. Jingle jingle, the class bell rang, and everyone in Class A, who were sitting at the table, was still thinking about who would replace Mr. Aizawa to attend class. After all, the latter was also seriously injured. Good morning. At this time, the familiar weak voice came to everyone's ears. Immediately afterwards, Aizawa Shota, who was bandaged into a mummy, walked in. Mr. Aizawa, the comeback is too fast. Everyone said in disbelief. No matter how you look at Aizawa Shota, who was knocked into the air by Nomu, he needs to cultivate for a while. Aizawa Shota coughed lightly and said, ask for leave is also a kind of absenteeism. Although there is no penalty, I still hope that during my coaching period, there will be no absenteeism. So dedicated. The words of Aizawa Shota made all the students, including Anzhe, feel awe. Such a good teacher is hard to find. Okay, the class will start. I'm here to say a few words. Aizawa Shota walked to the podium, put his hands on the table, and continued, the battle is not over yet. Why? Aizawa Shota paused on purpose, whetted his appetite and made everyone nervously speculate. Could it be that the villains is here again? A small grape-headed man held his head in his hands timidly, trembling all over his body. Fighting. In contrast, Bakugo Katsuki is very much looking forward to. The USJ incident made him hold back his anger. Not to mention that the teleporter guy didn't kill him. Anzhe was the one who showed off all the time and dealt with Nomu, who was the strongest on the other side. And he was completely reduced to a passerby, which made him quite annoyed, and he just wanted to find a place to vent. Of course, most people are still very worried. They have to fight again not long after they were attacked. Who can resist it? It's not that the villains came, 2 weeks later, what the battle refers to. After playing with his students, Aizawa Shota no longer tantalized, and said seriously. The Young Sports Festival is about to begin. Anzhe. There was a moment of silence in the class. The Ultra Campus style event is finally here. The next moment, everyone jumped up excitedly, thinking about what kind of campus life they have lived since entering Yingying. There is no opening ceremony, non-stop training and fighting, and the USJ incident that happened not long ago. The tense mind can finally relax. The Heroes Sports Festival that is ushering in now can be described as the most school-like event, and they almost cried with excitement. But in addition to the surprise, everyone also had a trace of worry. Is it really okay to hold such an event even though you have just been attacked? If you are attacked again, people like Ida raised doubts, because this possibility is actually not low. As the number 1 Heroes College, UA. High school's accident this time will make some villains who have long been resentful take the opportunity to make trouble again. At this moment, everyone finally cast aside their worries, and all showed excitement. Plus Ultra, try your best to ride the wind and waves. We must know that in this society where Heroes is saturated, if you want not to sit on the bench, the competition is quite fierce. P.S. The first update, please subscribe. And many Heroes firms will issue invitations to practice Heroes activities based on the performance of the students at the sports festival. And this year's security force has been strengthened to 5 times that of the past, not to mention the professional Heroes as the audience. Of course our school has considered it. In fact, the Hero Sports Festival is held as usual, just to show how indestructible the Hero's crisis response mechanism is. Aizawa Shota explained, remembering the tranquilizer. And now the Olympic is replaced by the Heroes Sports Festival, held by the best Heroes school in Japan, UA. High school, one of the hottest sports in Japan. Not only that, but for the students of Yingying, the Yingying Sports Festival is a step towards a broad future. Aizawa Shota continued. This sports festival is an excellent opportunity to soar into the sky. If you perform well, both experience and fame can be greatly improved. You can use quirks freely, satisfy the fanatical expectations of the audience, and feast your eyes on the quirks battle. The more vulnerable we are, the more we must keep our heads up high and continue to move forward. Yingying's countermeasures are indeed in line with Yingying's school motto. Yes, professional Heroes from all over the country will become spectators to watch the sports festival, and the purpose is to find talents. Whether it is to join a certain firm in the future or start a Heroes firm by themselves, popularity will allow them to have the right to choose independently, instead of passively waiting for others to throw olive branches. This will be of great help to your future Heroes, so take advantage of this rare opportunity. As a student of the Heroes department, I will definitely become a Heroes after graduation and enter the Heroes office. In this paranormal society where quirks are popular, the traditional Olympic games are no longer popular, and what everyone wants to see is a game between quirks. .121 Anzhe not allowed to participate in the sports festival. Jiro Kyoka is the reason why Heroes. Second update, please subscribe. Interesting for you. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 768. 192. 256. By the way, Anzhe, you come with me to the office. After Aizawa Shota finished speaking, the class ended and stopped Anzhe, who also nodded and left the classroom. All the way without words. Anzhe was curious about what Aizawa Shota was looking for, so he opened the office door and walked in. The mouse-like principal Mr. Principal, All Might, and the empty ghost soul all waited inside for a long time. Mr. Principal, All Might, Kong Gui Soul Teacher. Anzhe was also polite, nodding in greeting, more and more curious about what they were looking for. That Anzhe, I want to tell you something. The principal Mr. Principal coughed lightly and paused, can you please not participate in the sports festival for students? Anzhe looked confused, and he planned to take advantage of the popularity of the Yingying Sports Festival to increase his popularity. Kong Gui Soul added an explanation. Although you are a student, you are also a professional Heroes. I am afraid that many people will be dissatisfied with your participation. They think it is too unfair. The champion is basically you. The group targets. Anzhe also understands the meaning of Kong Gui's soul words, he is too good, so he is excluded by the people around him. Indeed, he also knew that if he participated, he would definitely win the sports festival championship. It is not even an exaggeration to say that it is still the kind of victory where adults beat children and crush them. Considering this situation, Mr. Principal and their actions are understandable. Young Anzhe, our school plans to add an additional, one-on-one arena for professional heroes and invites you to participate. All Might, who was in a thin form, said something that surprised Anzhe. By the way, Yingying's teaching staff all know about All Might's situation, let alone Anzhe, who was invited by All Might to be the next successor of OFA. In fact, Yingying decided to add an additional professional heroes competition event in the sports festival, just to deal with the fishing boats from the outside world. All Might and other professional heroes came to support them, but none of them stopped the villains, and 2 of them escaped. This makes the outside world very suspicious of Yingying's teaching staff, from the perspective of professional heroes, whether in terms of strength protection. To prove it, this one-on-one arena match for professional heroes also allows professional heroes who are outside the audience to sign up. I agree to participate. Anzhe's eyes lit up. From a certain point of view, this project has more attention and topic than the competition among students. That's good. We will formulate the specific rules in these 2 weeks and release them to the outside world. The principal, Mr. Principal, breathed a sigh of relief. He also knew that asking Anzhe not to participate in the sports festival among the students was an excessive request. At this time, Anzhe said again, however, I also want to participate in the sports festival for students. This time, it was the turn of Mr. Principal and the others to look confused, not understanding what Anzhe meant. Anzhe smiled, although professional heroes games are more attractive to people. But he also didn't want to miss the attention of the competition among the students. Children only make choices, he wants them all. The popularity of the 2 is superimposed, and the popularity he has gained is enough to make him fat if he wants to eat it in one bite. Anzhe explained. It can be understood that I participate in the form of a special guest, without calculating the final results and rankings. Speaking of which, he is both a master and a professional heroes, so it's not surprising that he participated in both, right? The principal, Mr. Principal, showed a distressed expression, running Quirks with his high-performance mind, considering the feasibility of Anzhe's form. All right. Finally, Mr. Principal agreed to Anzhe's request, and the latter left the office satisfied. It turned out that he didn't look forward to the sports festival that much. After all, it would be quite boring without an opponent. Now it seems that this sports festival, which is different from the original plot, will become very interesting. Anzhe returned to the classroom, just when the class bell rang, just like the usual class. But it can be seen that the students' minds are all on the upcoming sports festival, and they seem a little listless. After class, it is also a lunch break for eating. The students in the class remained in the class, their excitement not diminished at all, and they found their familiar friends to discuss the content related to the Yingying Sports Festival. After all, they were just spectators in the past, but now they have become contestants, how can they not be excited? Speaking of which, the Yingying Sports Festival is held once a year, and there are 3 opportunities in total, but it is the first-year students who receive the most attention. Because after the sports festival, the first-year students will also enter the hero's office for the first time as an intern. And not surprisingly, in the 2nd and 3rd grades, you don't need to worry about which firm you will go to as an intern, just do things in a down-to-earth manner. For example, undulating spiral, she was attracted by Anzhe's aunt Longju when she was in the 1st grade. From now until the 3rd grade, I have been practicing in Longju's office. Anzhe, let's go eat. Jiro Kyoka, pulling 2 girls, Uraraka Ochako and Ashido Mina, came to Anzhe and invited him to the cafeteria for dinner. 0. Seeking flowers. Good. Anzhe nodded. Along the way, the 3 girls even talked about becoming heroes, unlike the non-talking when they followed Aizawa Shota. So, why do you want to be heroes? Ashido Mina, who looked very lively, also moved her 2 small tentacles excitedly. By the way, I want to be heroes because heroes is very handsome. I also enjoy the feeling of attracting attention. Where's Uraraka? When asked, Uraraka Ochako's eyes dodged, his face turned red like a dimple, and he scratched his head in embarrassment and said, actually, I became a heroes for money. And my family runs a construction company, but it's completely there are no orders, so I want to be a heroes to make good money and make life easier for mom and dad. 0. Isn't that a good goal? Yeah, heroes are also human beings who have to live. Uraraka, you want to share the pressure of life for your parents. This kind of intention is very great. Hearing the praise and encouragement from Anzhe and 2 friends, Uraraka Ochako became more and more embarrassed, and her whole face was red, very cute. Probably to cover up, she quickly shifted her target and said to Jiro Kyoka, Jiro, what about you? I remember you said that your parents are musicians. Didn't ask Anzhe because he's already a professional heroes. Jiro Kyoka was slightly taken aback, and didn't know how to answer, and replied, I don't know either. Not sorry, Jiro Kyoka became the target of heroes and was as confused as the answer. Her parents are both musicians, she also likes music, and normally she will follow the same path as her parents. But the main reason she wants to be a heroes is. Jiro Kyoka tilted his head and sneaked a glance at his childhood sweetheart Anzhe. Who would have thought that the other party had already looked at him with a smiling gaze? With a swipe, Jiro Kyoka blushed and turned his head away. A girl's mind. Anzhe felt emotional and clapped his palms to attract the attention of the other 2 girls, helping Kyoka buy time to cool down her flushed face. Hurry up and eat, or the lunch break will be over. Yeah, I almost forgot the time. The three of them came to the cafeteria to order food, and Jiro Kyoka also calmed down, but he didn't dare to look at Anzhe. In short, Kyoka in this state is extraordinarily cute. 122 Exploding Support Section Classroom, encourage Hatsume Mei. The third update, please subscribe. After lunch, Anzhe did not follow Jiro Kyoka and the three girls back to the classroom, but went to the support department alone, intending to visit Hatsume Mei. For Hatsume Mei, the Hero Sports Festival is also an excellent opportunity to promote the baby she made to the whole country. The workshop door of the support department was closed for some reason during the lunch break. Anzhe was about to open the door when there was an explosion inside. Boom. The powerful impact force opened the closed door, accompanied by thick smoke, blowing towards the face. Ahem. Anzhe covered his nose with one hand, his eyes were narrowed into slits due to the smoke, and he waved the smoke with the other hand. Suddenly, a pink figure rushed towards him. Anzhe did not dodge. Hatsume Mei. Anzhe saw 277, black in front of his eyes, and was directly thrown down by a slender figure, in the posture of a woman on top of a man. With an excellent sense of smell, he seemed to be able to smell the sweetness of the girl, so he didn't avoid it, otherwise the girl's face would come into intimate contact with the ground. Little J. Hatsume Mei opened her eyes wide, opened her mouth slightly, and looked at Anzhe dully. Then she found Anzhe who was sitting under her as a meat pad, and got up quickly. It's just that the legs and feet are a little weak, probably because of long-term labor to invent things, and I lost my balance for a while, and fell down. Plop. The four eyes are facing each other. You can clearly see each other's figure in each other's eyes. A strand of pink hair fell down and landed on Anzhe's face, a little itchy. There was also hot, rapid, and sweet breath, which also fell on Anzhe's face. Although Hatsume Mei is obsessed with invention and manufacturing, she is not a little white girl who doesn't understand at all. Her pretty face suddenly flushes red at a speed visible to the naked eye, like lava in a crater. Okay, don't panic. Anzhe coughed lightly, sat up slowly, and helped Hatsume Mei sit up on her knees, and then helped her stand up again, covering up the embarrassment and changing the subject. So, there was an explosion again. That, Hatsume Mei avoided her sight, a little embarrassed, and didn't want to admit it. However, another figure came out of the smoke, supporting the teacher of the department with the power loader. Hatsume Mei, I haven't said it all, you are not good enough to make high-risk equipment items now. The angry power loader directly stated the cause of the explosion. Good afternoon, teacher power loader. Anzhe greeted him politely, startled the power loader slightly, and did not look very angry again. Hatsume Mei took the opportunity to say rationally, Teacher, you know that the Yingying Sports Festival will soon be a project that has attracted national attention. I know. Because of this, I have to work harder and sell all my babies. Hatsume Mei's eyes glowed, her hands were wide open, she couldn't wait for the Hero Sports Festival to start. In this way, she can show the baby she invented to equipment companies or manufacturers across the country, and then wait for them to buy the patent rights. The power loader shook his head helplessly, also because there was no way to take Hatsume Mei's reason. After all, the reason they support the department is to spread the props they made and invented, so they stay in workshops and other places all day and all night to invent. Anyway, Hatsume Mei, please calm down and stop seeing this kind of big explosion. The power loader gave a final warning, then looked at Anzhe meaningfully, turned around and walked into the workshop, leaving the two young people alone. Xiao Jie, I just happened to be looking for you too. Hatsume Mei turned her head to look, the shy expression on her face faded, use my baby to perform well at the sports festival. Hearing this, Anzhe scratched his head, always feeling that this sentence sounded a bit strange, and replied, I'm afraid this won't work. Why? I'm a student of the Hero S department. Only students in the support department can use the Hero S props they made. Anzhe stretched out his hand and flicked Hatsume Mei's forehead amusedly. This girl was really so addicted to inventions every day that she was so stupid that she even forgot this common sense rule. Yes, Hatsume Mei's expression changed, and he mentioned again that only the students of the support department can use the equipment and props they made themselves in the sports festival. And to be fair, Hero S science students like Anzhe are not allowed to wear combat uniforms, but uniform quirks to wear the sportswear on the day of the mastery test. Speaking of which, with the help of Anzhe, the fast-running boots made by Hatsume Mei have also been promoted to Keta equipment companies and manufacturers. Just for the patent fee from the sale, Hatsume Mei is already a little rich woman now. She even felt that as an inventive girl who was not good at fighting, she might not even make it through the first round and be eliminated. 1.7. It seems that Anzhe's encouragement is very useful. Hatsume Mei swept away the decadence without self-confidence, and her tone was high. Hatsume Mei's tone is not confident. There are more than 40 students in 2 classes of Hero S, not to mention a bunch of ordinary students. This is also the project that has attracted the most attention, and most of the audience's attention is focused on the 2 people on the ring. Come on, I believe you can. But Hatsume Mei has also mastered the magic that he taught her, and with the help of the baby he invented, it should not be difficult to break into the quarterfinals. But, I feel so difficult, although this time the sports festival may be deflected due to his accident. At the Yingying Sports Festival, there are all kinds of strange events, but the last event of each year is definitely a one-on-one competition to show personal strength. In the original plot, Hatsume Mei successfully advanced to the quarterfinals, and then teased the serious Ida, showing her baby to everyone. As a result, Anzhe shrugged helplessly and replied, Ah, well, I'm afraid I won't be able to win the sports festival championship. Yeah, Xiao Jie, let's cheer together. I successfully showed my baby, and you also won the sports championship. P.S. The third update, please subscribe. It seems that Hatsume Mei's ambition is far more than that. She wants more professional heroes across the country to use the hero's auxiliary items invented and manufactured by her. It's okay, Hatsume Mei, you can rely on yourself, fight to the final 1v1, and then sell your baby. Anzhe, who knew the original plot, made this suggestion to the girl. Anzhe encouraged softly, and patted the girl on the shoulder. 123 The blocked classroom door of Class A, Hitoshi Shinso kneeling. The first update, please subscribe. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 197. 49. 66. After Anzhe told Hatsume Mei about the conversation in the office, the girl secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Just when the lunch break was over, the class bell rang. Anzhe said hello and returned to the classroom. The afternoon was fleeting. After school, the boys and girls went home together, and Uraraka Ochako, who was sitting in the front row, opened the classroom door first. What's going on here? Uraraka Ochako stared in shock at the densely packed people in sight, gathered a large number of heroic students, and completely blocked the classroom door of Class A. Isn't it impossible to get out? Why are they here? Minoru Mineta, who was also about to leave next to him, jumped up and down twice, and finally found out in despair that even this little man couldn't squeeze out. HMPH, a group of miscellaneous fish must have come to inspect the enemy's situation. Bakugo Katsuki walked over with disdain, and said contemptuously to the group of people in front of him, "They are really meaningless passers-by, get out of the way." This kind of arrogant speech made the dense crowd erupt for a while, and then a person walked out from the crowd. The guy with purple seaweed head and inverted triangular eyes looks like a villain. He was facing Bakugo Katsuki aggressively, and responded in the same tone of arrogance. At first, I thought about what kind of character Class A of Hero S would be like, but seeing this scene is a little bit disillusioned now. Aha! Bakugo Katsuki yelled angrily, "Who are you, kid?" "I'm Hitoshi Shinso from the General Department." The man named Hitoshi Shinso was like a leader, and the noisy crowd behind him suddenly fell silent. Hitoshi Shinso continued, "Many of us are guys who failed the actual test. But according to the performance of the sports festival, the school may reconsider enrolling some people in the Hero S department. By the way, the Yingying school also deliberately blocked it, although the incident of villains invading USJ a few days ago is almost known to everyone. But no one knew the level of villains in detail, and before Hero S came to support him, villains was repelled by the teacher and a group of students in class. So they all think that the invading villains is just a group of rotten fish and shrimps. But this incident made the Hero S subject, which had already attracted much attention, even more famous, and made the eyes of students in other classes red. Inspecting the enemy's situation, Hitoshi Shinso sneered disdainfully, and continued, "At least our general department is here to declare war. If you are complacent because you repelled the villains, you will be overthrown by us. Anyone can say big things, as long as the speaker has confidence in himself." However, it seems that except for Hitoshi Shinso, the rest of the general science students, when they heard Hitoshi Shinso say this sentence, their momentum seemed a little lacking. At this moment, Enjinjiro Kyoka also came to the gate. He didn't want to waste the time after school, and planned to make these people disperse away. Seeing his figure, Hitoshi Shinso's pupils shrank sharply, and a group of people behind him burst into exclamations. Anzhe is here, that is Anzhe who is already a professional hero S as a wizard. Hearing about the invasion, the villains was defeated by him alone. Wow, he participated in the sports festival without any suspense at all, and he didn't give anyone else a chance at all. From the degree of surprise and attitude of these people, Anzhe remembered what the Mr. Principal said. No wonder the other party asked him not to participate in the sports festival for students, but to participate in professional hero S competitions instead. It is precisely because of this that they are weak people, otherwise they would not have made the so-called declaration of war. Anzhe was just about to speak when he felt a pair of staring eyes. The 4 eyes are facing each other. It was Hitoshi Shinso. "Hi, are you Anzhe, the wizard?" Hitoshi Shinso started talking to Anzhe, but secretly used quirks. Anzhe is naturally well aware of Hitoshi Shinso's quirks, brainwashing, which can control the opponent's body through words, and will be controlled if he responds to what he says when using quirks. But Anzhe raised the corners of his mouth, showing a playful expression, and replied, "Yes." Quirks activated. Hitoshi Shinso showed a successful sneer, and suddenly felt that the outside world praised Anzhe so much, and it was nothing more than that. Under my own brainwashing quirks, I still want to obediently become my own puppet. Kneel down. Hitoshi Shinso suddenly made such a rude request to Anzhe, which stunned the people around him. Only those in his class knew what was going on. As a result, Anzhe said indifferently, "Boring, is your quirks just like this?" "What?" Hitoshi Shinso looked astonished, as if he had seen a ghost. "How is it possible? Didn't I brainwash you? Why don't you have anything?" Quirks brainwash, through language. The words spoken by Hitoshi Shinso are actually like a kind of brain wave. When the other party answers his words, the brain wave will transform into the waveform of the other party and resonate, so as to influence and manipulate the other party. Deciphering this quirks is also simple. In addition to not answering his words, intense pain or stimulation can also release the control. In an instant, the crowded crowd all made way for a path. This small episode before the sports festival will not affect daily life. Some of them wanted to refute with harsh words, but even Hitoshi Shinso, the leader, knelt down, and the huge pressure made their words stuck in their throats. It's as small as a pebble on the side of the road, and no one will notice it at all. Anzhe glanced coldly at the people in front of him, and suddenly burst out with a cold aura, overwhelming, as if an army was overwhelming. 2 weeks flew by in the blink of an eye. Plop. Anzhe is not a reasonable person, his reasoning is very simple, whoever bullies himself or the people around him, then return it. It's not that Anzhe didn't get hit, it's just that the magic power in his body, such as the stimulation of the thunder element, was released from control in an instant. There is no need to use the breath of death at all, just the coercion he has formed for a long time makes these students feel unprecedented pressure, and they are sweating wildly. Anzhe and Jiro Kyoka, under the gaze of everyone, left lightly. Step aside. From Anze's eyes, everyone reflected and clearly saw their own posture. Hitoshi Shinso, who was being concentrated and oppressed by Anze's momentum, couldn't control his body at all, and his legs softened even without any strength, and he knelt down directly on the ground. The day of the Hero Sports Festival has finally arrived. P.S. The first update, please subscribe. Don't play tricks, because you will find that no matter how hard you struggle, it will be in vain. Kneel down. 124 Shoto Todoroki's Declaration of War. Second update, please subscribe. Hero Sports Festival, opening day. Outside the sports festival venue, there are various food stalls lined up on both sides of the road, all of which are run by Yingying students. The audience who come and go are not surprised. This is a part of the Yingying Sports Festival, which is specially used for the students of the business department to practice. This year's business department is doing pretty well. Mount. Lady commented while looking around while stuffing takoyaki into her mouth. We are here to patrol, not to go shopping. Behind her are Jungle Kamui and Blazing Fire Buster, all three are professional heroes under the Anzhe firm. What's the matter? It's not just our group. Looking at the speechless Jungle Kamui, MT. Lady continued to gorge on delicious food, and then glanced at other professional heroes. She likes this kind of commission where she can fish in a fair manner. The three of them have received the patrol area commission issued by UA High School. This year's sports festival is much more defensive than previous years, and the number is at least several times higher. After all, it was attacked by the League of Villains, and UA High School will continue to hold sports festivals, so corresponding security measures must be in place. By the way, what about Death Fist? Why didn't he come this time? Mount. Lady's cheeks were bulging, she seemed to be stuffed with a lot of food, and she asked as if remembering something. Generally, the commission is carried out. Basically, the three of them are in a group. The Blazing Fire Buster next to him is completely missing one person, so they are pulled over to supplement. Death didn't raise him, it seems, he's gone on a date. Milan Kamui's tone was a little envious. Aha, Mount. Lady was so surprised that she even dropped the takoyaki in her hand. She quickly picked it up and said, are you kidding me? It's not that I look down on him, but Death's Chiquan looks like a muscular man, and he is also a rough man who has no love experience at all. Now tell her that Death Chiquan didn't come to carry out the commission because he went on a date, who would be unbelievable, right? No, it was our opponent in the winner's bracket in the license exam. Milan Shenwei shook his head, with a strange expression, that person named Xiaoju Mako. Hearing this, MT. Lady also had a strange expression, silent and speechless. Mako Kiku, that Quirks who made the other party feel 100 times guilty, this is not the point is her body shape. Especially petite, not even 1.5 meters tall, compared to Death Chiquan's height of more than 2 meters. I'm afraid it won't reach the stomach in one step. What the hell are you guys talking about? A steady voice interjected, and the Fire Buster with a confused face couldn't understand the conversation between the two of them at all. Don't worry, I actually feel incredible now. Along with the conversation of the three professional heroes, a large screen was installed outside the sports festival venue, and the screen was finally shown at this time. The Hero Sports Festival is about to start. At the same time, in the rest room of Class 1A. Everyone in Class A is wearing sportswear, making final preparations, waiting to appear. Bakugo was facing the wall with his eyes closed, Green Valley Izuku was taking a deep breath to adjust his tense heartbeat, and Shoto Todoroki was staring at Anzhe without knowing what he was thinking. I really want to wear a battle suit. Then there are active groups like Ashido Mina and Kirishima Eijiro, who use small talk to relieve stress. After all, they are all a group of teenagers who have just entered the first year of high school, and they were still in the third year of junior high school a few months ago. Just imagine, at their age, they want to participate in a sports festival that exceeds the existence of the Olympic Games. It's no wonder they are not nervous. But for Anzhe, he wasn't nervous at all, he was completely confident in his own strength. Sister Luowan, how did you sneak into the rest room of the first grade? At this moment, Anzhe watched the whole class change from 21 students to 22 students, with the addition of curly blue hair. It is the wave spiral. Hey, come in secretly. I'm also Yingying's student anyway. Undulating Hawan stuck out his tongue playfully, changed the subject, and looked curiously at Anze's blue and white striped sportswear. This is the first time I've seen you. Xiaojie, you wear sports clothes. No way, the school stipulates that uniforms must be worn uniformly. Anzhe shrugged his shoulders helplessly. It is said that it was to prevent the battle suit from possibly being beneficial to certain competition events and breaking the fairness of the competition. At the same time, he also felt a cold look, and he didn't even think it should be Jiro Kyoka. Anzhe coughed lightly, feeling a little hairy from being stared at, and asked, Sister Luowan, aren't you going to compete in the main grade? I have already participated in the sports festival twice, so there is no need to spend a lot of effort to show yourself, so Sister Longju and I will be in the auditorium and record Xiaoju's performance throughout the process. Quote. Undulating Spiral shook his head with a smile, and then showed a serious expression, saying, My goal is not the sports festival, but the cultural festival in the second half of the semester. I see. Anzhe nodded knowingly. Sister Luowan lost the beauty contest at the Yingying Culture Festival last year and only took second place. For girls, they really care more about this aspect than the sports festival of fighting. Okay, I won't bother you anymore, Xiaojie, please do your best. After finishing speaking, Undulation Helix was embarrassed to continue disturbing the rest of the rest, and left the lounge. After Anzhe watched Sister Luowan leave, she planned to take a nap. When she turned around, Shoto Todoroki walked towards her. Objectively speaking, your strength is indeed higher than mine, but I don't think I will definitely lose. Shoto Todoroki clenched his fists and said to Anzhe with determination. Oh, two of the strongest declarations of war in the class. Kaminari Denki, who doesn't think it's a big deal to watch the excitement, sighed. This sentence made Bakugo Katsuki, who was sitting next to him, very upset when he heard it. The two strongest in the class, Anzhe and Shoto Todoroki, does that mean he is not considered at all? Hateful. Bakugo Katsuki looked gloomy, he must make everyone look good at this sports festival. Really, with your half-baked quirks, you don't even have the qualifications to make me serious. Facing Shoto Todoroki's provocation, the corners of Anze's lips curled up, and Haki answered. Yes, so if I meet you, I will definitely do my best to defeat you. Shoto Todoroki looked at his left hand, his eyes seemed to be burning with flames waiting to erupt, full of determination and determination to win. Hearing this, Anzhe was slightly taken aback. Could it be that due to his own reasons, Shoto Todoroki intends to ignore his distaste for his father endeavor and use his flame ability to fight with all his might? Interesting. I'm looking forward to that moment. Anzhe smiled even more. Although he focused on the professional hero's competition, he didn't want to feel that the competition between students, Qian Haojiao, was too boring. Speaking of which, originally Shoto Todoroki was allowed to use the flame ability after being pressured by Izuku from Green Valley and the pressure of the battle. Invisible Cannon. It would be better to say that Shoto Todoroki wants to prove it by defeating himself more than the shackles in his heart. Everyone is a young genius, young and energetic, no one would want to lose to the same opponent for the second time. Was it Anze's display of strength, and his desire to win, that made Shoto Todoroki make up his mind? Anzhe shook his head and stopped thinking about it. After Shoto Todoroki finished declaring war, he sat and rested again, and the tense lounge returned to calm. After a while, a staff member came over, and Anzhe had a few words with him, and everyone stood up without him saying clearly. Is everyone ready? It's time for us to appear on the stage soon. Hold your head high and show off the momentum of our Class A, Grade 1. Yes, times N. Then, Anzhe, as the class monitor, led the whole class out of the contestant channel. 125 The Heroic Sports Festival begins. The third update, please subscribe. Interesting for you. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 330. 83. 110. The scene of the Heroes Sports Festival was quite spectacular. Looking around, there are no empty seats, as if people from the whole world are gathered here. In the lower area, there is a special media seat. Reporters and cameramen keep an eye on the player passage, waiting to take pictures for various materials. This year's Yingying Sports Festival is very popular. Causing hot discussion equals a big increase in ratings, thanks to the performance of Class A of the first grade. Yeah, who would have thought that a group of students would actually defeat the invading villains? They are quite high profile. A bunch of reporters are talking about the students of Class A in the first year, not only because they repelled the villains, but also because Class A has many geniuses who have attracted the attention of the outside world. Shoto Todoroki, the son of the active number 2 flame hero Endeavor, is said to have stronger quirks than Endeavor, and has the bloodline and potential no less than All Might. Bakugo Katsuki, a genius born out of the Silt incident, with strong willpower and quirks who are extremely suitable for fighting, is also very much looking forward to. Yayorozu Momo, as the daughter of the chairman of the Yayorozu Wan Group, the largest financial conglomerate in the country, aside from strength, her popularity is quite high. And finally there's Anzhe, who rose to prominence at a young age and became a professional hero in a special way, not to mention his sheer prowess, impressive. Restricted by the age limit, studying in UA high school, as a student is also the most well-deserved student. These 4 highly concerned people are all in the same class. Thinking about how fierce the confrontation will be between them, it is impossible for anyone not to look forward to it. But the champion of this sports festival, don't even think it will be the wizard Anzhe. Yeah, I think so too. After all, the others are just students, and the difference is too far. Comments like this, not only their reporters, but also the audience in the auditorium think so. At this time, the voice of Hero's present mic appeared on the big screen, and he was sitting in the commentary booth. Hello to the audience at the scene, and to the audience watching the live broadcast online. I am the voice Hero's present mic, and I will be the commentator and host of this Hero's sports festival. Immediately, the audience at the scene suddenly burst into cheers that resounded through the sky. Voice the hero S nods in satisfaction, his quirks are super noisy and don't even need a mic. Stirring up the atmosphere, he deliberately said, the Hero Sports Festival, the young Hero S are fighting each other in this annual battle. Anyway, you are all here for this group of AJFE guys, right? The audience cooperated enthusiastically and answered in unison. Class A, first grade. That's right, it doesn't matter even if you encounter villains invasion, the miracle star who has overcome difficulties with a steely spirit, Class A of Hero S first grade. Under the shout of the voice hero S Anzhe, who is the class monitor, led a group of people in the class to walk into the arena with their heads held high. On the big screen, the director immediately turned the camera to them. Seeing their heroic aura, the passion of the audience was ignited, and a tsunami of cheers broke out immediately. On the side of Class A, Grade 1, Green Valley Izuku's legs trembled nervously, and he muttered, there are so many people. We're being lifted up to the sky, always feeling nervous, Bakugo. Even the lively Kirishima Eijiro was doing the same, bobbing his head around to watch the audience all staring at them. Bakugo Katsuki, who was asked, was still in a state of displeasure, and replied with a cold snort. Ghosts are nervous, I just want to trample those who underestimate me. And Anzhe, who was listening to the cheers, was still very excited. It's not like he's fixed like an old monk, his body age is in the middle of his youth, so it's impossible not to look forward to this moment, right? Showing his strength and power to everyone on this stage, accepting everyone's cheers and praises, his blood is constantly flowing from the bottom of his heart. The voice of Hero S continued to introduce. Then Hero S Class B enters the venue, followed by General Classes CDE, Auxiliary FGH followed closely, and finally Business Department. Those classes and students who followed Class A of Grade 1 did not receive much attention, even the introduction of the voice Hero S was briefly mentioned. We have become decorations. The students in Class B, Grade 1, who are also in the Hero S department, looked at everyone in Class A with unyielding eyes. These cheers don't belong to them at all, isn't it because the villains invaded Class A, and All Might is also coaching Class A? This time at the sports festival, their first grade Class B will let the audience across the country witness that they are better than Class A in the same Hero S subject. The Heroic Sports Festival is divided into 3 competition areas, corresponding to the first, second, and third grades. The principal, Mr. Principal, is in charge of the third grade competition area, and the first grade competition area where Anzhe is located is the Midnight, named 18 bands by Hero S. Yingying is not an ordinary school. The opening ceremony requires the leader to give a half-day manuscript. At this moment, the 18-band Hero S Midnight, who is the referee of the first-year division, stands on the platform in the center of the venue. Everyone looked at the plump figure on the platform, wearing a tight-fitting white silk battle suit full of color, and holding a whip in his hand. This made many male students and spectators swallow their saliva, their eyes drawn involuntarily. This scene angered many female viewers, especially those with male companions. Oh man. Before the start, there is a special rule. I believe you also know that after the competition between students, there will be a professional Hero S competition, right? In the past 2 weeks, the new professional Hero S competition will be released in the sports festival, and this news will be released to warm up. Sure enough, after hearing Midnight's question, all the audience showed the excitement that they had been waiting for a long time. Yes, Midnight continued. Besides, based on the reactions of many people, it is very unfair for Anzhe, who is already a professional Hero S, to participate in a sports festival between students. After swiping, countless people, including everyone in Class A, focused their attention on Anzhe. But he is not only a professional Hero S but also a student of Hero S. If he is not allowed to participate in the sports festival and enjoy his youth, it would be too unfair to him, right? Midnight's words sparked heated discussions among the audience. In Japan, many children are accompanied by their parents during sports games and other activities, and they record the whole process with cameras. This is a rare and precious youth experience in everyone's growth. Many of them really felt that Anzhe's participation would make the result of the sports festival no suspense. But it is not Anzhe's fault that he is young and promising, because he is too good to be rejected by ordinary people. How can there be such a reason? Rather, it's just some people's jealousy. Now that Midnight mentions it like this, it's inevitable that they will feel a little ashamed. Anzhe raised his head. There was also a part of the auditorium dedicated to professional Hero S, and he quickly found Aunt Longju and Sister Luowan who were sitting together. Aunt Longju was very excited at the moment. I am afraid that if Sister Luowan hadn't pulled her, she would have gone straight to the stage to argue with Longhua. Ahem. Midnight coughed lightly, feeling a little stressed, and hurriedly continued. Thus, after discussions with our school and seeking Anzhe's intentions, we have decided.